Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to Phil's Recap and Review. Game of Thrones, Season 1, Episode 10, the Season 1 finale, Fire and Blood. This episode was originally aired on June 19th, 2011, and welcome to the Funny Horror Show, starring Joe and Phil. Ooh, we are two very funny whores.
Yeah, I think we are funny whores.
I think we are funny whores, man. I think that's a great depiction of us. I think Shay was talking about us. Everybody, welcome back to the Game of Thrones recaps here at Phil's Recap and Review. We're finally closing out Season 1 here today. Joe and I are going to talk all through everything that happens in Fire and Blood, and Joe will probably share a couple of thoughts about Episode 9 as well, since he wasn't with us, or a little bit more about Ned. But we talked a lot about Ned at the beginning.
I basically only have one thought about that. It was, that's about it.
Winter is coming out. We got a couple people in the chat already. Fire Club, please don't use any trigger words during today's broadcast. What trigger words? You guys need to start watching The Last Kingdom on BBC America. Try to imagine what a trigger world would be in Westeros. Winter is coming, maybe. Hodor, maybe. Oh, but everybody, if you want to join in the chat, if you're listening to this live, jump in the chat room live on the YouTube page or on issuesprogram.com, where this is broadcasting from, and you can jump in the chat room and talk all about this episode, share your thoughts. You can also jump in the chat room that you can find the link in the description box below. Email me at igotissuesman@gmail.com. Tweet me at igotissuesman, and whenever you watch this later, please share your thoughts on Season 1 of Game of Thrones and what the fuck we just watched in Episode 9 leading into right now. It's just total and utter craziness, and this was a great close to a really excellent season of Game of Thrones. And we're not alone, as I mentioned. We've got Farcloud and Sam, lady who was skipping class a little bit but decided to go to class and will watch us later. Good girl. Way to go to class. It's way more important than listen to the two of us babble about Game of Thrones. We don't want to see you get subtracting points from your final grade or anything. We're not responsible for that. You sign our contract.
Yeah.
But here we are, and this episode is all about the reaction to Ned Stark's death and the lead into next season, and how everything kind of traverses into what's going to happen in Season 2. And this is going to be a real fun episode to talk about. There's a lot to talk about, things that happen, but obviously Episode 9 was where all the crazy shit happened. This is the setup. This is the first season of a bunch of seasons in a row where Episode 9 was the craziest episode of the season, and Episode 10 was a catching your breath kind of episode. Would you say that, Joe?
Yeah, it's a tie you off and lead you on smaller or bigger, more fucked up cliffhangers than you could possibly imagine.
Exactly. Heading into the next season, we still don't meet this Stannis person we still keep hearing about. Perhaps we'll meet him in Season 2. We didn't really check in with Renly, though he was discussed in this episode. Let
me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Would you rather have it had ended after Episode 9, not necessarily only being 9 episodes, but the events of Episode 9 being the cliffhanger, the season finale, the too bad fan, you need to wait to see any kind of response of, Ned's head is gone?
You mean like if we traveled in time back to Season 6? You mean kind of like Season 6 did to us? Season 5 did to us at the end?
No, kind of like just like if there was no Episode 10, if Episode 9 was the end of the season, if that was the cliffhanger, if that was now you got to wait 9 months.
Okay, it's an interesting thing to say, because that's more standard to what other shows do.
Right.
Would I rather that? No. I think part of what started, besides the fact of the people that were interested in it before or that were predisposed to this kind of medium of entertainment, I think part of what created the buzz around Game of Thrones and created the juggernaut that you have here today is it not being normal. Is it not going the same route as you would expect from other shows of its ilk? And I think part of that is the action in the big tragic event, the thing happening in Episode 9. I think that is something that got people a little bit more talking, because you almost expect those kind of things to happen in shows in the final episode of the season. I like that it wasn't the final episode, and it gave us another episode to see where everyone's reaction for that was. I don't think I would have liked to wait a whole season to see what Arya's immediate reaction after that was. And I also think it's good to set the pieces for season 2 so you don't have to take care of that shit at the beginning of the next season.
I like that. Yep. I personally like it. I think it follows more of a novel arc than a TV show arc because they do it that way. And I really like that. It stays truer to the books by doing it that way rather than saying, okay, season 2, we're going to start at the end of book 1 and continue in.
Not to mention there's the big matzo ball dragon hanging out over us right now where that we ended this season with the dragons and the fact of I know we've seen
that's a pretty huge cliffhanger in and of itself too.
Absolutely. So. And I know that we've seen other moderate magic up until this point on Game of Thrones, but this is really the first point that you because we've seen White Walkers and stuff like that. But this is the first point that you realize, even though the first thing we see in the first episode or the first prologue is White Walkers in something more mystical to magic.
You almost forget about that shit though. You almost don't even like take it serious. Like, okay, so they had some weird wildlings with doing some shit. Okay, whatever. Like you can dismiss it so well because
even if you go to the whites attacking Mormon in his office thing, you can even stretch that out to I don't know, maybe some wildlings figured out some weird I don't know, mind control. I don't know, whatever, something.
Or just drop. Dude was on PCP, man. He ate some forest mushrooms and that grew off of some dire wolf droppings instead of cow droppings.
To argue devil's advocate, come on, idiots! They're fucking zombies. Deal with it. So I just want to put the devil's advocate in there too.
Well, no, but you could be like that. You could be like, okay, there's many things. You can kind of dismiss the magic in the story until these dragons are crawling all over Dany.
Dragons and there's blood magic involved. It's a different world. You're dealing with a different.
This girl crawled into a fire.
Yeah, and didn't burn. Yeah, she crawls into a fire, doesn't burn, comes out. You're like, holy shit, what kind of show is this? This isn't a political intrigue, war between factions type show. What's going on right there? What's with the girl with the nipples and the dragons? With the dragons sucking the nipples. What's up with that? But so I think ultimately the way they did decide to end the entire season worked really well for the story. And I think if you would end it with Ned Stark dying, to quote Farcloud in the chat, yep, that would have been nut crunching. It would have crushed your nuts a little bit. And I feel like you ended it on a down note and then a couple of other down notes in this episode. But ultimately, the end of this season also ends on a high note because I think this Fire and Blood is probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite, Daenerys episodes. I love her in this episode. I love Emilia Clarke's acting in this episode when she's realizing how, and I trash Dany a lot, so I'm an honest person here. I really enjoy her in this episode. I enjoy her facial expressions and her reactions to Mary Mazdor when she figures out what happened in the whole.
Well, this little part of the story with the witch and Dany is the best Dany stuff. The last 2 episodes with Dany, what happens to Khal, what this woman says to her in this episode, the bullshit is done. It's all over. It's like, I have no need to kiss your ass anymore. This is exactly the way it is, sweetheart, you stupid child.
And that's what I like about it too, Joe. It really establishes her for the mistakes and stuff that she's made, and showing how ignorant in some senses she has become. And I just love the reaction. I love how it just comes over her, and the way she plays it is so perfect. She seems more like a child in this episode than ever before, and I enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, it's almost more like she not just seems like a child, but she seems like she's finally going to shed the childish ways a little bit.
Right. And also, I kind of blanked on what I wanted to say there because I heard cats crying in the background and I couldn't tell.
I'm sorry, that's baby.
Oh, no, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure it was your house, not my house.
My house.
Is that we also got to see the first of a Daenerys that maybe we'll see more of later, and that touch of the Mad Kingness in her when she just starts. And I know it's warranted, but I love when she's like, "No, you're gonna burn and you're gonna scream, and I'm gonna like it." She's almost touching herself like "Oh no, you'll scream, motherfucker, you'll scream."
But that's not what I want. I just want your life.
I just need your life. And she kind of just takes the situation by the balls and goes, blood magic, I'm going to use it. You just taught me something. I'm going to use my fucking blood magic to get what I want out of this of this situation. Ahmed asked, did she regret saving the witch? I believe that she probably does, but she more regrets. Yeah, I think she regrets or everything. I would say it's not just saving the witch. It's probably suggesting the witch to take care of Drogo's wounds. It's everything that came to it, just kind of drinking the Kool-Aid of this con woman. And I think she starts to realize the mistake that she made. I don't think she regrets saving her life. I think in the moment of saving her life, it's just trusting her past that point. I think Dany still, and as we see past this, still believes in saving lives and that people shouldn't be raped and murdered and killed and turned into slaves and stuff like that. Dany has a very strong sense of that. And I think if she could make the decision again, she probably would. She just wouldn't trust the woman to take care of Drogo. And also it's worth mentioning in the book, in which I know this isn't the book, but we don't see a lot of Drogo. It's still yet to be understood. It's still up in the air whether she actually poisoned him or did anything. In the books, Drogo doesn't follow her orders and starts fucking with the wound and like rips the covering off of it and like rubs sand on, like does all this shit and doesn't follow the woman's orders, Mary Mazdor's orders on how to tend to the wound. So some could say that
no. She poisoned him. She absolutely did this.
Not clear. I agree. I tend to agree with that, Joe, but it's not completely clear exactly that happened, and it's especially a little bit more vague in the text. And in the show, I think it's 100% basically says I poisoned him. Fuck you.
And well, here's the thing: when because in both the book and the show, she kills the horse, right?
I believe so. Yes, it's been a while for the book, but I don't remember that clearly. But yes, she does kill the horse. I'm pretty sure.
And to me, with this culture and society of the Khal and the Khalasar and all that, the horse is almost just as important as the Khal. You know, like without the horse, a Khal who doesn't ride is no Khal.
Yep,
right?
it's like Clay Morrow.
So when like it's at that point you know that this was all deliberate when she goes and kills that horse too.
Oh, I mean I don't necessarily. That's not necessarily the reason why I agree. I see what you're saying. I mean I agree with you 100%. I think this was all a plan. I'm just saying it is at some points a little unclear whether Drogo didn't help the situation either because he's a clod in some ways. And in the book,
if it wasn't getting better and it was getting worse and what she was putting in there was poison, it's gonna make him wanna get at it and fuck with it.
And it could be that she knows he's more animal than human in some ways and knows that she set the motions in place knowing he would pick at it and cause a deeper infection. It could be a lot of different things. For whatever it's worth, she outsmarted Daenerys and Drogo in this situation and got what she ultimately wanted out of the situation. Daenerys' baby killed, revenge for what the cow.
He was going to be the stallion that mounts the world. Now he will not mount a stallion or the world.
He won't.
Nations will fall beneath him.
Exactly. We have a couple of greetings. Welcome, Ada. Welcome, Tim. Welcome, Sam. Welcome, Lynchstroll. Welcome, all of our friends. The horse didn't stand a chance. And the horse died in both the show and the book. Yeah. It says, let me see. Cersei's crazy, doesn't really start to kick into high drive until season 2, says Sam. Yeah, Cersei's in this episode very briefly. A very brief little Cersei interaction here. Okay, so let's start in our recap and get in.
Just kind of like this episode, her crazy is realizing, oh shit, what kind of crazy have I created and unleashed upon the world? Like she's just sitting back, just completely freaking shocked at what her son is. Like she always knew it, but it was never like she could always control him. She was always actually the more, powerful of the two. And now she's realizing she's fucked.
Yeah, this episode is really, in a lot of ways, Joffrey's coming out party. We really get, and I'm gonna kill a lot of motherfuckers.
And my brother's cat.
Okay, so let's get back to the funny horror show. And in King's Landing, we're gonna do this. I have the dialogue of the scenes, and I have a little brief description of what happens in the scene. I'm gonna read kind of the brief description of what happens in the scene, and then we're gonna talk more in depth about what happened. So in King's Landing, we see the crowd celebrating the death of Eddard Stark. Yoren of the Night's Watch is there, and he grabs Arya and kind of takes her away. He keeps calling her boy. When she protests, he begins to cut her hair with a knife. He's determined to take her back to the north. Poor Arya. And this is what I say in our jump off point in this scene. This, I think, in the entire series is probably the most out of control and straight up emotional that we see Arya for obvious reasons. But she is, it's almost.
This is my hands down favorite Arya scene.
You love this
until all the way up until she jumps on Meryn last season.
Right.
Now, I can't stress. This is great. She is absolutely shocked. You can feel it when that guy grabs her and is like, "You remember me, boy," and like doesn't give up on the boy thing and starts cutting her hair. And I'm not a boy. You're not a very smart boy. Is that what you mean? Yeah. He's like just ripping her hair out with a knife, a dagger. It's very symbolic that she is no longer Arya Stark. If she wants to live, if she wants to continue to be a person, she needs to shed that. It's this whole kind of storyline that leads her all the way to where she is, and who is she, and who is she, and who is this girl in front of me? She's no one. She can't be Arya Stark anymore. She's done, and it starts with this, with the shedding of her hair and her not being a very smart boy. I love it. I love this scene so much. It's not just my favorite Arya scene. It might be one of my favorite scenes in the show.
It's definitely, from knowing you pretty goddamn well, Joe, it's probably one of your favorite quotes from Game of Thrones of all time. You quote this all the time. Just in random. I'm just going to read. Do you remember me now, boy? Remember me? There's a bright boy. You'll be coming with me, boy, and you'll be keeping your mouth shut. Keep your mouth shut, boy. I'm not a boy. You're not a smart boy. Is that what you're trying to say? Do you want to live, boy? North, boy. We're going north.
It's awesome. It's like I kind of felt tingly just listening to you read the lines. I love it. I think it's amazing, and all those people around, they're not yelling and screaming like, "How could you do this? You killed Ned Stark, Joffrey, you bastard!" They're cheering. They want more blood. If anybody even suspected that wasn't a boy, that was Arya Stark sitting there in the crowd, they would have tore her limb to limb.
Joe, I hate to say this, but Joffrey played this perfectly.
He did play it perfectly.
He got exactly what he wanted and played Sansa and played Varys to get Ned to give him what he wanted, to publicly declare he was a traitor and to publicly say Joffrey is king, yada, yada, yada. And then Joffrey immediately knew the whole time he was going to do this and then kill him and not have anyone in front of him or around. I think, don't get me wrong, as we find out later in the episode and as we see, Joffrey made a stupid mistake. But to get what
smart boy.
Not a very smart boy, but to get what he wanted, he played the game in this situation extremely well. He made a really good big play here, and he covered his ends in the moment of it to have the crowd on his side because Ned just admitted he was a fucking traitor. So it was just like a perfect storm of a situation that no one could stop what was going to happen there.
It was that rook you don't see coming. He just like all of a sudden, boom. Hi, I'm a piece on the board.
Yep, Dad. Let's jump in the chat for a second. Oh, ugly little girl, you'll never find your pack, says Tim. Oh, poor girl. Oh boy, says Ad. Welcome, Ada.
She's gonna start a pack of her own.
Tim says, yeah, but can you not love every Arya moment? Yeah, you can. It's hard not to love every Arya moment.
Right, but you can definitely quantify the good ones to the bad ones. There's some great one when she's staring at the Hound, just watching him die. When she finally gets Needle back, when she's at Harrenhal. There's so many wonderful.
We'll get to all of them.
This trumps it. This is the moment you're like, oh fuck, this little girl. Yeah. Like now, like you realize she's all alone, 1,000 leagues from anywhere helpful.
New York Kia says, NY Kia says, I miss me some Vikings. Me too. We can't wait till the Vikings starts. Full Viking season, which means not just the 10 episodes. I think we're getting 12 to 15. It's going to be fun. Sam, that scene with him and Sansa in this episode makes me want to push him off a narrow bridge. We'll get to that. We're getting to that very soon. Adafan says, well played. Joffrey, yeah, absolutely. Ahmed says, the worst thing is that Sir Ilan Payne killed him with ice. That is probably the most horrible situation. Anytime you see Ilan Payne get anything positive happen to him, really makes me upset. You see a couple moments where Ilan gets to be very happy in these last 2 episodes, and it makes me very sad. Arya in real life is blossoming into womanhood very nicely, I must say, says New York Kia. I cannot disagree with that logic. Sam says, oh, I love the one where she literally goes up the hound and says, I'm going to kill you one day, and just walks away. And Tim says, how can you do that? Arya is gold every time she comes on. I agree. Arya really is gold every time she comes on screen. I would say Arya, I know, Joe, Arya is your favorite Game of Thrones character, or up there. You're her and Tyrion probably are very...
Those two are like, so they're almost tied as to like which one I crave more on screen time.
Exactly. So that's a very fun scene. Not fun, but they do a really excellent job. And this is one of the things that Game of Thrones does better than maybe any show ever. The perspective, and it makes sense considering the source material. But you really get an emotional connection in that moment to everything Arya is going through, and even what Yoren's going through in that moment, trying to save her and trying to kind of panic in that moment of, holy shit, what the hell just happened? I thought I was taking Ned to the wall. I showed up here to take Ned to the wall. Like, what the hell the fuck's going on? I heard from Cersei herself. Cersei's the one in charge. What the everyone just panicked. It was like mass hysteria, and then the crowd just goes crazy, and you get that riot. Yeah, it was just great tension, great emotional buildup, and Game of Thrones at its best right now at this very beginning first scene. And then to see how it all develops and how we lead into Bran's dream here as we cut into trigger words. She's one of my favorite female characters, says Sam. Since my top 6 happens to be all guys, Adafan says they were not ready for that day. No one was ready for that day. And I think also just to continue on to that thing, I think the mass hysteria in the crowd also did a good job at reflecting what people's reactions were watching that scene at home. I think it really mirrored how they did a great job of doing that in this episode. But I don't want to talk about future events, but I think they did a better job in this follow-up than they did any other season in the follow-up to the big episode. I think this really just feeds off the events of that episode 9, and really what we go into afterwards is the reaction summary here of everyone's reactions to what happened to Ned Stark.
Well, I think at this point we still have the most characters that we care about. We haven't lost as many as we do have in later seasons. There's and everybody's kind of in these already positioned in these super dramatic spots of their own, that when this happens and we have this reaction episode, there is a lot more emotion, and I think us as fans are a little bit more tied to it than in further seasons because there's just a couple less characters, Robb Stark or whoever might not be there, and there's a little bit less that you care about. So it's not, and you kind of expect these moments like you had in episode 9, where you're just going to be floored and pissed for 7 days straight. And although they have some pretty fucked up episodes ahead, losing Ned Stark is just,
it's about as crazy as it gets.
Loads at that moment. If you've made it that far and have like, I really like this show, or this show's okay, and make it to season 9, that seals you, that brings you in.
Episode, yeah.
What's that?
Oh no, keep going. You said season 9, but episode 9. I know.
Episode 9. That's the one that it solidifies you as a fan. So episode 18, when it happens, you almost kind of are ready for it.
Let's not talk about that too much because I'm
just saying I don't know what's in episode 18. I'm just saying I don't know. I just picked 18 because it was double 9.
Yeah, you randomly picked that episode, right? Yeah.
No, I would because that's the episode before the end of season 2.
Okay, so
no, 19.
Let's jump into the chat room here for a second. Sam says,
Whatever
don't really want to go back there with the discussion, but he really should have run with Renly when he offered the chance to do so. Absolutely. Lady scream, whoops, opened my laptop in class and forgot this video was up. Phil, your voice just blasted through the classroom. Yes. Welcome, all subscribe to my channel. Addis says the cat escaped from you, Joe. Sam says, oh my God, that is so awkward. I hate when that happens to me, which it did in classroom yesterday. The laptop, not the cat. I'm allergic to cats. Joe with Precious. Wow.
Her name is Little Bitwell.
Little Bitwell. Okay, so as we connect into our next scene, this is probably, I really enjoy early Bran scenes, especially season 1 Bran scenes. Not that I don't like him proceeding, but he's just, the actor when he was a kid just plays, I love his performance so much more. And I mean, hopefully in season 6, we're going to see more of Bran. I know we are. So I've been so separated through season 5 of seeing no Bran that it's just, I'm so excited to see these scenes with Bran because I miss him. So we see a crow's perspective flying in, and this is just a perfect mesh of reality and dream done here. Obviously, again, this is very different than the way this situation is done in the books, but I think it works really well here in the show. So Bran has the same dream again of following the three-eyed raven. He tells Osha about it while he's on her shoulders, and it kind of transitions into reality. In the dream, the raven leads him to the family crypt down below the castle, and he finds his father there in the grave. Osha takes him to the crypt in order to show him that his father isn't lingering there. They're frightened by sounds, and they think they hear something, but it ends up being Shaggy Dog and Rickon. And Rickon has had the same dream as Bran and seeing their father.
Yeah, but Bran's like, shut up, Rickon. Told you not to be down here. Go home.
And Osha and Bran emerge from the crypts with news, and they find out that Ned is dead. But in this scene, it's really, you get some backstory. You hear a little bit about Lyanna. You hear Bran say, this is where my grandfather is buried down here. He was burned alive by Mad King Aerys. That's my aunt Lyanna, my father's sister. King Robert was supposed to marry her, but Rhaegar Targaryen kidnapped her. But Robert started a war to win her back. He killed Rhaegar, but she died anyway. And we also, this is probably the most interaction we really get with Rickon, and the most details that we get about Shaggy Dog, which again, we don't want to get too far down that road, but Shaggy Dog is more of a factor in the books in the sense that he's a lot less trained and a lot more wild and ravenous than any of the other direwolves. And everyone's kind of afraid of him.
So who is this kid, and why does he have a direwolf again?
Well, he is, this kid, Rickon Stark, is actually one of the Stark kids. Yes, that's right. He's Bran's younger brother that we see him a lot towards the beginning of this season. And
I think he becomes like a super major character.
I think so
season
too.
2, 3, 4.
We haven't quite gotten there yet, but I'm pretty sure he is a major character in season 4. Him and that character Gendry that we meet later in the episode.
Gendry.
They become buddies on the King's Road, and we see them running down the King's Road together a lot. I mean, I think that's why season 4 gets.
They become like an Albert and Costello duo, right?
Yeah, that's why season 4 they bump into Arya and her friend out there at some point in the house. It's a big party. Ahmed says, I love Shaggy Dog, the big black direwolf and the green eyes. After Ghost, he is my favorite. Tom, you're not that late. We're just kind of in the second or so scene. Welcome, my friend. Welcome.
And thanks for coming to our show, everybody. Have a good night.
We'll talk to you guys later. Good night. Sorry
you missed it, Tom.
So I guess there's not much else to say in the scene. We get to see Lewin come out to tell Bran and Osha what happened to Ned, and I like how they do it. They kind of fade up and they go to silence as you're looking at it from maybe a crow's perspective, watching what's happening, possibly, or looking at it from one of the tree's eyes. What the hell am I talking about? But I just like how they sort of cut above, and you don't actually hear Lewin tell Bran. You just see him sort of looking like he's expecting this. He's expecting what Lewin's about to say to him. And I mean, it's fair to say that Bran's dreams are a big part of season 1. They're a bigger part of the book story. But I like how the show does it from a show's perspective of this is a very difficult moment to pull off what they do in the book to the show. And I think they do it pretty damn well as they can in hooking up with the dreams and seeing Ned in the dreams and just the way it all balanced out. I very much enjoy the way it's done.
Yeah.
So, guys.
And coming from me who hates these kind of dream sequences and vision crap in shows, I do think they did it pretty good. And they They keep it to a minute with all the fantasy stuff, and that's the hardest thing to explain to people when you first started watching the show. Trying to tell people about how awesome it was and that they should watch it. They're like, oh, is that Lord of the Rings fantasy crap? Like,
Fantasy.
Yeah, no, yeah, no.
No.
Like you can ignore, you can really, and throughout season 1, you can ignore any fantasy, mystery, magical shit until almost the last season. The
last couple of things. Yeah, and I agree with you. I know
scene.
Yeah, the last scene of this episode.
Right.
And I know so many people that hate fantasy that still like Game of Thrones.
Right. Same here.
And the people that hate fantasy that haven't watched Game of Thrones won't watch it for that reason. Oh, this is all dragons and shit. I don't know what dragons.
Yeah, fucking dragons. It's like, dude, you don't understand. There's like, okay, yes, but no. It's very hard to explain to people. Like,
let's jump in the chat for a second. Farclutton, guys, spoiler about that Rickon and Gendry stuff. Come on, guys. And Ahmed says, my first time live. Greetings from the Netherlands. Welcome, Ahmed. So glad that you're able to join us live. It's 6 p.m. here, 1800 hours. Awesome to follow the the conversation live. And that's why, again, we like to do these things at different times when we can. And we're trying to do these Game of Thrones ones more often. So we're going to probably do a lot of them on these Friday afternoon stretches when on Joe's off weeks on work. Because I think every other week he has these Friday afternoons off. So
every other Fridays from here on.
So we'll bid that. Sam, very cool. Never been to the Netherlands, but my parents went there for my dad's 40th. Holland represent. Oh, wow. We have awesome group going on in the chat right now.
My parents went there actually this last spring as well.
And as we say all the time, if you guys are listening to this on the audio cast, on the podcast, you can always subscribe to our podcast. You can find that in the description box below on YouTube. And if you're listening to this, you can always join us live on the YouTube page. Please subscribe to Fill the Issues Guys YouTube page or Phil's Recap and Review if you do either of those searches. Or it's youtube.com/The Issues Guys stuff. And please come over and subscribe and find out when we go live so you guys can join in the live discussion as well. Anyway, so let's continue. So then we get, after that scene with Bran and Rickon and Osha and Lewin, we go to Kat. We see Catelyn Stark walking through the men, kind of trying to keep her composure as she's obviously found out what just happened. And she ends up going into the woodsy area where she begins to straight out sob. And I have said this before, and I will say it again. The actress, Michelle Fairley, more than any other actress on the face of this earth, nobody to me plays crying, freaking out crazy better than this actress. I loved her in 24 when she did it.
Really? So this is actually a point of contention with me, because Hollywood hires an actress to do this in every fucking movie I've ever seen her in, and everybody touts her as the best and prettiest actress of all time. And I'm like, aside from the one movie everybody always brings up, and everybody in the chat room is gonna type it in as soon as I'm done saying her name. You think she's better at it than Charlize Theron, who I think?
Yeah, I don't like it. I'm not a big fan of Charlize Theron. I think she
does it in every movie from like The Yards, Devil's Advocate, The Astronaut's Wife, The Road.
And I don't think she's as good as Michelle Fairley at it when she really plays crazy. Like, I'm talking about not necessarily just crying. I'm talking about crying, insane, crazy, and can hysterical, and then can switch it over to insanity in the sense, oh, we're going to kill them all, Robb. Yes. Yeah. And just her switch as she hears Robb crying, and she runs over to him and she stops him and sees that he's smashing his sword against a rock. And she goes,
tree. He's like bashing the tree, isn't he?
Says, you've managed to, he says, Robb, you've ruined your sword. And then he says, I want to kill them all, every one of them. I will kill them all, my boy. And she says, my boy, they have your sisters. We have to get the girls back, and then we're going to kill them all. And you really feel for Robb in this moment. He feels his age for probably the only time in the entire series, I would say. Really, you feel Robb's age in this moment.
Yeah, he's only like 18. I mean, he seems a little older in this. He seems like he's in his early 20s, 23, 24, but he's only supposed to be like 17, 18 years old at the time this is happening.
Tom says in these early seasons, you can really tell how much the guy that plays Bran has sprouted. The show plays over a period of 2 years. LOL, absolutely. And just think about the cry. Oh my gosh, heartbreaking. Now that's a trigger episode. I don't even want to talk about what the chat's talking about right now. But I agree with you, Joe. I might not be a big fan of Charlize Theron, but she does a good job of that as well. I never really connect to it in the way that
she does do.
What was that? It's the only thing you think she does.
With the exception of Monster, which everybody was like, oh, she's great in that movie. That's the one movie that everybody always was like, you can't say bad stuff about her. She was in Monster. And then the only other movie I kind of like her in, is Hancock, believe it or not.
Oh, Hancock. I fucking hate that movie.
No, I love other movies that I love Devil's Advocate in spite of her. I love Viggo Mortensen in The Road. Unbelievable movie.
Okay.
Unbelievable.
Now let's continue. And I actually would not mind seeing her and Michelle Fairley working together in something. I think they would play good sisters or good something.
I don't particularly want to see Charlize Theron in anything.
John is 1 year younger.
Especially clothes.
Scratches all over her body. Okay, let's
what?
Michelle Fairley also did a good job on Suits too. I don't know if I've ever seen Suits. So let's continue into speaking of scratches all over someone's body and what someone would do to some. I'm talking about the scene in Devil's Advocate when she opens up the thing when she's in the church.
Oh, right. Okay.
So speaking of the devil, we've got Joffrey's court, which is
that little bastard,
fucking hilarious. Joffrey is listening to listening in the throne room to a troubadour singing of King Robert's death. I'll do the song here for a second. Let me. The boar's great tusks, they bode ill will for the good Robert's health, and the beast was every bit as fat as Robert was himself.
Oh, this is a great song.
But our brave king cried, "Do your worst. I'll have your ugly head, and you're nowhere near as murderous as the lion in my bed." Ooh, King Robert.
He's calling the dead king a fat, lazy, can't kill a boar, and the boar isn't as bad as his wife. Who's fucking her just as murderous and hoary. Like, this is a very insulting song.
King Robert
is being forced to play this in front of the court. Fucked up.
King Robert lost the battle and he failed his final test. The lion ripped his balls off and the boar did all the rest.
Oh,
ladies and gentlemen, we have a telephone call. Welcome to the show, caller. How are you doing today? Hello, caller. Can you hear me? Hey, what's up, buddy?
Not much. What's going on? I was calling about the song. Is that not the dumbest fucking thing to do at the moment whenever he sung that fucking song?
I know. What was he thinking? Did he think
he was forced to sing the song?
But I guess he thought maybe Cersei would thank him for doing that shit.
No, absolutely.
The song, he was ripped out of like a tavern and brought there. Like, that's, I think, the same musician that was in the tavern with Tyrion and Michelle Farr and Stark woman there.
Catelyn Stark.
Thank you.
Very good call, though. And I do want to say that as much as Joffrey hates the song, and I think the caller's point.
Catelyn hates it more.
I mean, Cersei loves this song. Cersei's
I think
Cersei's smiling at listening to this song because she's like, "Yep, they
all kind of like it." No, she can't have that. She can't have that at all. She's very upset and insulted. This song can't be sung in taverns. It undermines everything she's going to try to work for and try to get.
Cersei loves it.
There's a part of her, of course, that loves it, that she's in any song. You know,
and what it's talking about, it's talking about how she's outsmarting Robert. Robert was a big dumb idiot that got his balls ripped off by the lion that they're talking about.
It calls her a murderous. Murderous, conniving
the person woman that would say thank you to that. She loves it. She owns it. She's like, "Thank you. I'm the best."
Yeah, that poor bastard. That poor bastard. He's sorry he had to be so fucking clever.
Caller, what's going on, buddy?
No, that's me again. If you had that choice of the hand or the tongue, what would you choose?
Oh my God. I think because of number 3 in the mornings, I think I'd have to. No, wait.
You have another hand.
I have another hand. Oh God, that's tough, dude. Oh, dude. Okay, give me a second.
He'd be taking both hands though, wouldn't he?
Yeah, probably. Knowing Joffrey, he probably would take both hands, wouldn't you say?
Oh shit!
Good call. We're going to talk about this.
think that would let him
I
take
would
my
say he
tongue
would just
before I
he's
hold my
could
hand.
kill you.
Tongue. Thank you, caller. What do you say? The caller says the tongue. What do you say, Joe? Tongue or hands? I mean, for what I do, I'm a fucking talkative asshole. I would probably have to, even though I play, it's weird. I play drums and I talk. Like, I would say probably I'd lose my hands. I don't think I
You
could
can
not
still
talk.
sing and write, and you can fashion things to the end of your arms.
Right.
I mean,
Especially in this time. I mean, if
Wow.
we were in now, if we were now, and we were in the world of today,
by hands.
maybe because then I could get one of those like computerized voices and we could be listening to, hello, Phil. This is the Phil podcast. Welcome to the podcast.
I would definitely take, if it was right now, I would lose my hands because you know what? There's just too many people I need to scream at in life.
Very true, Joe. Very true.
It just doesn't translate well when you write that shit down and like show them a piece of paper.
And awesome calls, by the way, caller. Thank you for calling, and we really do appreciate it. And anyone else wants to call or you ever want to call, 24 hours, 7 days a week, you can always leave voicemails as well at 781-990-8509 for any calls, any questions, any requests. And if you want it for a specific show, if you're leaving a voicemail, just let us know what show you want to what show you want us to play the message on. I was gonna say pertaining.
And what show you're talking about, but
Right. What show you're that's the word. I couldn't think of the word pertaining for some reason, or whatever show you're talking to pertaining to. Let's go into the conversation. Go into the chat for a second. Vaughn says, "What a way to go for one of the greatest warriors in Westeros." Sam says, "Oh, that makes more sense because I was wondering why he would perform that song in front of Joffrey, making such jabs at his father and mother." Tom says,
especially his father just died.
Tom says tongue for sure. Sam says, yes, he said all the fingers. So it would have been both all the fingers. Vaughn said when Roderick Castle said he'd rather throw himself down a well, he should have listened. Farcloud says she smiled because she knew she would kill him. Tom says you can do sign language. And Farcloud says the tongue as well. And I think it depends a lot on the time period. If I was.
Yeah, I don't want to not be able to wipe my ass.
Very true. Unless you were rich enough to hire someone to do it.
He's not. He's a minstrel traveling the road.
So after all this situation, we talked about this. He says, "Oh, that's a funny song, isn't it? Thank you for your rendition. I can imagine it was even better received at the tavern. I'm sorry, Your Grace, and I'll never sing the song again." Who do you think ratted this guy out? Who read this guy out to Joffrey? Who was in the tavern that heard the song that told?
There was a lot of people. That's a big town.
Yeah, somebody. Do you think that Joffrey was probably very thankful of whoever ratted him out of this guy? He gave him.
Well, he gets to make an example. He gets to set the tone for the city. You will not speak ill of me, of my family.
So tell me what you favor, your fingers or your tongue, Your Grace. He ends up getting Ilan Payne to cut out his tongue, and you just hear these screams in the background as Joffrey like punches out for the day. It's just a really funny moment where he's like, "Okay, mother, I'm done for the day," and he like punches his time clock out, like, "Now you can continue for the evening, mother." And then he walked.
Never being able to taste your food again.
Oh God, that's
push the food around in your mouth, like when something gets stuck to the roof of your mouth. Oh,
Miss Ash, welcome so much for a live chat. Finally with us live. Great to have you, my friend. Great to have you. So each man needs hands, Your Grace. So Ilan takes out the sentence, and never being able to eat again. Like I would never be able to taste food again. Would you still have some sense of taste because of the nerves in the back? Because you couldn't cut the whole tongue out, and you still have your smell, so you maybe be able could like feel essence of something.
You also got maybe the sympathy of Ilan Payne doesn't take your whole tongue because
he's given no sympathy, no fucking sympathy.
No, he's taking the whole thing, right? He's getting down as far as he can to be like, ha, fuck you.
He's also eating it later tonight. He's like frying that on the stove. And
maybe mine will grow back if I eat this, guys.
Yeah, I could, sir. He's like signing to Joffrey.
Get me a red priestess.
Yeah. G-E-T, get me. Yeah, I'm sorry. I know the alphabet. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. No. Anyways, I just sort of messed around with it in the book, but I know the alphabet. I could spell it out. I'm at a starting point where I could start to communicate. Anyways, I did a play once where I had to learn sign language. So I just love how Joffrey kind of like punches out here, and I'm done for the day, mother. And then he just goes immediately over to to Sansa and starts like, Sansa, you're looking fine today. What's going on, babe? Why don't you come with me? And he's still trying to play nice with her. He like wants to make this a surprise. He's like, hey, babe, you're looking so good. Why don't you take a walk with me? And they take a walk outside, and he eventually and the Hound's like, come on, you better come with, come with us. It's not going to be a big deal. And she eventually brings her outside, and she sees all the heads of George W. Bush and her her father and who else is it? It is her what's her name? Fucking her handmaiden there. I'm blanking on their names. What they call the handmaidens there, but
her not Septa.
Septa, yeah, no, her. Gosh, yeah, her Septa's there. I'm blanking on her last name. I'm sorry. Having a senior moment here for a second. So she brings her out, and this is just a horrible Joffrey moment where he's just like, look at them. And I like how quickly Sansa kind of turns herself into Septa Mordain, and kind of puts herself into just like focus mode here for a second. And this is probably the strongest we see her from the last time we see her strong for a really long time. And she just goes, how long do you want me to look? And then he's like, well, as long as I make you. And then
she's completely strung out looking.
Absolutely. Thank you guys. Septa Mordain, says Tom. She's completely strung out looking, but she also shows surprising resilience to me in this scene where
she's pissed. She's figuring she's dead anyway.
Absolutely. And also she I think really believes that Robb is going to kill him now, and she's like, he's like, I can't wait to bring you Robb's head, and I'm going to serve you Robb's head to feed it to you and all this other shit. And then she turns it around and goes, what if he brings me yours? And he just freaks out and starts going into the whole, well, my mother told me never to. One second, caller. My father never told me never to hit a woman, and he ends up having Sir Meryn fucking Trant slap the shit out of her 2 or 3 times back and forth. And we'll continue. 1 second. Welcome to the show, caller. What's going on, buddy?
This would have saved a lot of people and a lot of lives. It also would have just fucking pushed him.
We're about to get into that, and I agree with you.
Just jump on him, push him.
And ultimately, if you are right, Joe, and great calls, buddy. And ultimately, if you are correct in what you say, that Sansa essentially believes that she's dead anyways, why not just do it? Why not just dive bomb him there? Just like charge him and tackle, instead of just turning and thinking about it and having the Hound stop her. And considering where the Hound possibly could go after this, I'm surprised the Hound didn't just let her do this.
Right. If she had tried, he might have.
He might have. Yeah. I think.
Then again, the Hound knows that if she succeeds, he's probably, if he doesn't get out of the city, he's murdered. He's killed for failing in his job of protecting Joffrey. Even though it's technically not his job, it's the King's Guard.
She should have kamikazed it, as Ada said.
Yeah, she should have.
And someone asked who would take a tongue more kindly, Drogo or Ilan Payne. I think Ilan Payne would be a little bit more sensitive about it. Personally, I think Drogo's just like, damn it, fuck you.
It depends on how mad Ilan still is.
Very true. Very true. They should have Goldberged his ass.
Drogo might start out and then be like kind of disgusted by the whole thing. Ilan might be like, yeah, I'm gonna eat this tongue. And
I still think he's cooking it. Yeah. Ahmed says, question, did she want to throw herself from the wall, or did she want to push the king because it was the Hound that stopped her? I think probably a little bit of both. I think Sansa at this point is already starting to give up and shut off, as Joe was saying, and she's thinking about, I don't give a shit about taking my own life in this situation. Personally, I think that's definitely part of her thought here. And I mentioned this in my fun facts video, and mentioned this a second ago. You can also see George W. Bush's head next to Septa Mordain up on the one of the spikes. So then we get to Robb and his men. And even though this is for a bad reason, I love seeing something that we don't get to see as much in, spoiler alert, that we don't get to see as much in future seasons. I love seeing the men of the North interacting. And not to do, because I know it gets compared to a lot of the times, It has nothing to do with it, but I just mean this in the sense of I love it in the same way you see in the Lord of the Rings movies, the Hobbit world, and how the Hobbit world is kind of separated from the rest of the world of Middle Earth, and they have their own hierarchies and their own interactions, like when the family's all hanging out at Bilbo's party and just the way they're all talking to each other. There's a sense of that with the Northern men. They have their own language, their own way they talk to that's not connected to any of the rest of Westeros. We've talked about this a lot before. The North is bigger than all the rest of the other 6 kingdoms practically, and together almost, right?
It's
is
about
that
the same size? Yeah,
about the same size. So there's like this separation from it in different culture in a way. And
there is less people that live up there because it's the fucking North. It's wet. It's
North,
cold.
But because of everything, they have their own identity. And I love that about seeing the Northern men interact with each other. It's very fun. Sir Pounce got Ilan Payne's tongue. Vaughn. And Lynchtroll says Ilan Payne keeps it. I think Ilan puts that tongue in his mouth when no one's looking and pretends he can talk. He keeps it with his tongue collection. Max, welcome, Max. Come on, Sansa was just a kid and she expected Robb to come and save her and saved her and killed Joffrey. I agree with that. I think she probably expected. I think she, until that very moment that Ned actually died, expected that Joffrey would save Ned from Cersei in this situation, that Joffrey was her white knight and would ultimately protect her and not want to do anything to truly harm her. So, and what a Goldberg is Goldberg was a wrestler, and one of his final moves, I believe he just did this like chart, like we threw the guy off of ropes and he just like jumped into him and shit. So I think that's what the person was saying. Sam was saying when she said, or someone was saying when they said a Goldberg to Goldberg. Someone. I don't think they were talking about the ABC sitcom series, starring Jeff from Curb Your Enthusiasm. So as Ron said, Bill Goldberg, the wrestler. Yep. So Robb and his men. What's important in this scene is Robb. They start talking about where the northern houses should give their loyalty now that Joffrey's king and Stannis and Renly are both stating their claims. Robb says something very interesting, very idealistic, where he's like, Renly can't be king because Bran can't lead Winterfell while I'm around. It just can't happen. Very Ned-like in his decision-making process here. But ultimately, all the other lords of the North declare that fuck that king, and it's put on mainly by Big John Umber, who is just amazing in this scene, yelling and screaming, King of the North, King of the North! Yeah. And it goes into the whole King of the North thing where they all declare Robb the King of the North.
Worst thing that ever happened to the kid.
The worst thing that's ever happened to him is in the dialogue here when Theon says to him, "Am I your brother?"
Brothers for life.
Now and always, my sword is yours in victory and defeat from this day until my last. Oh, I really believe this Theon guy, Joe.
I do too. He's a little bit shifty, but I think he really loves the Starks, his brothers.
Imagine, Lynch Troll says, imagine if Ilan gives you a blowjob. Imagine if Ilan tried to give future.
Depends on how rough those scars are in there.
I was just gonna say, imagine a situation where if some fan stories that have Ilan and Theon's future self having an sexual relationship. That'd be a lot of pain going on in that relationship. So, Firecloud, love the Goldbergs. Me too. I know Joe doesn't like it, but I'm actually a pretty big fan of the Goldberg series.
No, I don't dislike it.
I thought you hated the kid. You hate the middle son. You hate Barry,
the older brother. Yeah,
the older Barry Goldberg. I can't refer to that jerk by his other name, says Sam. Oh my God. Yes, absolutely. Roger Castle should have strucken down this Theon bastard. No, but Theon's a very good guy. I can have all the Northern Lords basically agree that they can all have peace in their own little factions with the wars that they have within each other. And they can all get behind Robb Stark as King of the North. And you say this is the worst thing that happened to Robb. And I know someone that agrees with you, Joe. Catelyn Stark, who's watching this all nonplussed by all this. She is not happy about this whole situation.
Yeah, Robb, you're not the King of the North. You're the Lord of Winterfell. Don't be going to overstep your bounds. This is not like we don't have the men or the means to start a revolution right now. You can't do this.
Yeah, you're getting a little carried away, Rob, is what she's thinking in that situation. She's really kind of like, this is not a good thing.
Like, honestly, if he had just said, you know, if listen to the letters and you know, not Renly, but Stannis is the rightful heir, some shit, he could have, like, that those two forces combined, they might be able to do it. But
I want to jump into the text for a second. We have someone from New York, Kingston, New York. What's up, Phil and Joe? Listening to your Game of One season review right now, but for some reason the chat isn't working for me. You can jump into chatwing.com/I've got issues, man. And the link to that is in the description box below. We have created an alternate chat because YouTube chat does not work for some people, and I've contacted YouTube and they don't care about it. Also for the disconnects and the freezes, they're just like, we don't know what's happening. Sorry. And we have a couple other people from texting. We have someone from Florida. Hi, Phil. I'm new to the live videos, but I'm having a hard time finding the chat. No one is in the chat wing, so I'm in the wrong place. Sorry. It's just not many people are using the chat wing yet. If you write in the chat wing, I can read it. I will be able to read it. So feel free to post in that right now, or you can keep texting if you want. And we also have a voicemail. Let's listen to the voicemail.
You know, I would much rather have Theon's bow than his sword. He seems like a hell of a lot better archer. But
I would agree. Theon does seem like a pretty good archer, and it seems like probably one of the few things he's actually good at. And I agree. I would, and my bow and my ox. Maybe they didn't want that scene to sound too much. Again, like, and you could have my bow, my ox, my sword.
Right? Yeah, that would sound a little bit too.
Okay, I accidentally just spoiled something for someone in the chat. I'm cautious when people ask questions like that. Who is Reek? I know who he is. I thought it was Joe. Oh, they were asking who Reek is. Yeah, guys, and I say this a lot. I said it before. We're going to try to keep, if you are watching Game of Thrones for the first time and you're listening to this at any point in time and you're checking out the chat live and this is your very first time and you just watched this episode for the first time, I would tread somewhat lightly, and it doesn't hurt to watch the episode first and be caught up with Game of Thrones. We try to not talk about seasons 2, 3, 4, 5 and future 6 stuff, but we're only human here, and we're not like ironcladding our balls here to that. So we'll try our best and we'll play the game a little bit.
At this point, come on, guys. It's not our fault if you haven't watched season 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 and are watching our talk show about it. It's just not.
We appreciate that kind of support. What Joe's trying to say is we appreciate that kind of support, but maybe you might want to go watch Game of Thrones first. It's always
thank you, Phil.
I'm a politician.
The words get,
as we've decided on last Sunday's Game of Thrones Walking Dead cast. I'm a politician.
I'm a little too blunt.
Yes. Speaking of which, no. When does season 6 come out? They aren't sure exactly. They've actually
April.
They pushed it back. They said it's actually going to come out later than normal.
You bastard!
Sorry, Joe. I didn't mean to make you angry. So Jaime, then we get probably one of my favorite Jaime Lannister scenes of all time here, and I love. It's the scene when I first watched the series that made me like Jaime. This scene was the start of it for me, to be honest with you. And I know, yeah, he throws a kid out a window, Joe, and fucks his sister. But I just love Jaime's attitude in this scene.
Oh, he's a
pump and talk. He's a pump.
Yeah, okay, I can admit to trying to murder your little fucking boy, but I'm still such a little fucking coward, child, baby fuck that I can't admit to fucking my sister to you as the reason why I tried to murder your 10-year-old son. That's the person you say, I kind of like this guy. He's still a coward. He's still a little piece of shit, and he still can't admit the actual reasons why he's fucking done the stupid shit he did.
Tim O 30, I can absolutely see you in the chat wing chat room. Welcome. So hopefully this will work as an option for some of the people that cannot get into the YouTube live chat. So yes, I can absolutely read your message, my friend. And I mean, I agree with you, Joe, to a certain extent, but ultimately it's it's all for love. Okay.
Like, no, it's all for love. It's all he can't admit to it. He can't even say because of love. There's nothing about it that's love. It's all shame. It's all a dirty little secret. He needs to hide it. He can't admit to it. He murdered this woman's son. He's now a captive. He still can't get them clean.
Farco says there's a joke in the chat about the spoiling thing. But yeah, we like to say that because we do know there's occasionally people that have said to us they're watching this for the first time. So I like to be somewhat protected. I don't think you got any of our people that are listening live would be. I like the part when he talks about how he has more honor than her husband who died because of a strict honor code. Yeah, Jamie, way to go. So the scene goes back and forth. Lady Stark, she wants to see him. And Jamie immediately goes into, you look very lovely tonight. Widowhood becomes you. Your bed must be lonely. Is that why you came? I'm not at my best, but I think I could be of service. You slip out of that gown and we'll see if I'm up to it. As she just grabs a rock off the ground, it just smashes him in the face a couple times. And his reaction to that is, oh, I do like violent women. And as we know, he really does. And she goes, I will kill you tonight. Pack your head in a box and send it to your sister. And then he goes, let me show you how. Hit me again over the air and again and again. You're stronger than you look. It shouldn't take that long. Is this what you want the world to believe, isn't it, that you don't fear death? And he goes, I don't. The dark is coming for us all. Then why cry about it? Because you're going to the deepest depths of seventh hell. If the gods are, and this is where he goes, if the gods are just, what gods are those? The trees that your husband prayed to? Where were the trees when his head was being chopped off? If your gods are real and if they are just, why is the world so full of injustice? And she says, because of men like you. And he says, there are no men like me, only me. And then she turns to Bran. How about my son? How did he fall from the tower? And Jamie's like, as Joe pointed out, he freely admits he pushed him. I pushed him. Why? I would hope that the fall would kill him. Why? And then he clams up, Joe, as you said, and which I think is somewhat of a pussy.
Coward.
He cowers into this of the why because and this is where you can disagree with me, Joe, and I know you will. I think he cowers because he feels bad for what he did. I think he feels sad that Ned Stark is dead, that he didn't get a chance to finish off what he feels like he started in that fight with Ned and kill Ned himself. I feel like I think Jamie generally, in his own fucked up sense, has a sense of what he considers honor. And in his honor, that's a shit way for Ned Stark to die, and he didn't deserve that.
So you think that's why he clammed up, not because
let me finish, Joe.
Like,
and
that's part of this.
Okay, I'm turning Joe down for a second. Now, I also think that he did it because of the fact that he feels bad for what he did to the kid, and that he did it because it was Cersei's pushing, no pun intended, to force him into that, as he did it for quote unquote love. I don't necessarily abhor him for it or say it's okay, but I don't think he's completely 100% to blame for it. Joe, tell me I'm an idiot.
Well, he's just, there's no reason for him not to say why he did it. There's absolutely no reason. They already have the rumors of.
Is he protecting Cersei? Is he protecting Cersei and protecting?
It doesn't protect anyone. He's a captain. It doesn't matter what he says or doesn't say. They can say he said anything.
It protects his kids.
From what?
From getting killed because they're not Robert's kids.
Okay, now, is there or is there not already a letter been circulated saying
Not yet. I don't believe. I don't think
Stannis hasn't already started making those letters.
That's still rumors from a bitter asshole. It's still hearsay. There's still no proof, but there would be proof if it was coming from Jaime Lannister's mouth that I fuck my sister. It's plausible deniability until you can't prove that anymore. It's why Future hop in the time machine, zip, zip, zip. It's why Cersei continuously says, I did not fuck my brother. I did not fuck my brother. She knows it would mean the death of her kids.
Right, but the thing about Jaime admitting it now to Catelyn means almost nothing because they're alone. It doesn't matter.
I tend to agree with you. I just like arguing. I tend to agree that Jaime had no reason to exactly admit it, in that he probably could have admitted it in the situation, and it would have made the situation better and or worse. It wouldn't have verified that was true. He could just deny it later. I do think he gets clammed and emotional when he talks about love because he knows probably somewhere in his heart that it's wrong. But he still loves her, so he's protecting.
This is a complete narcissist moment. This is a complete sociopathic moment. There's zero care or concern for anybody but himself and the way people view him and his honor. This is 100% completely self-serving.
Interesting.
The same reason why he's, he attacks her. He's trying to like snottily charm her a little bit and insult her at the same time, which is why he gets hit with the rock. He compares his honor is larger and deeper than Ed's. This is a complete narcissistic.
That's not all he wants. That's not all he wants to give her. That's not all that's longer and deeper than Ed's. No, I'm kidding. So let's jump in the chat for a second. Sam says, yes, Cersei's cunt, part of my French, is the best part of her, according to multiple people in the show. So she was easily able to manipulate Jaime for the most of his life, especially because he had never gotten any action before her. Ahmed says, Jon Arryn and Stannis already knew, and Jon Arryn told Stannis first. That's why I left King's Landing. I just wonder if Stannis has sent that quote-unquote letter out yet, and I don't think he does that until season 2 on the show. I could be wrong, though. Vaughn says, Sam, that in her cheekbones. Yup. Didn't know
it must be that Stannis sends it out in season 2 because I don't think we...
I'm pretty sure he sent it out in season 2.
Yeah, we don't have any Stannis in season 1. So.
Right. There's just mention of him a couple of times.
Right.
But there's no actual action from Stannis. This is when there's strangely quiet over there at in the house of Stannis. So yeah, it's just a very fun scene though. I like between Jaime and Catelyn, and I love debating Jaime with you, Joe, because it is one of our fundamental disagreements on Game of Thrones where we agree about a lot, but our opinion on Jaime Lannister is something that's something that's very much in opposition. So I like discussing Jaime with you. Max says, I think it wasn't really on the show. So Sam. Yeah, and it wasn't about why Stannis left. They kind of brought that up because the showrunners wanted to make Stannis as stupid as possible for some reason. Ahmed says, you're right, Phil. The letter came after the letter from Ned. Farcod says, could Jaime be under some kind of spell curse from that frog witch? No, unless by frog witch you mean
Cersei.
You mean Cersei. Sorry about that. And let's jump in the chat ring for a second. Tim says, I love Jaime in this scene. I know he's a dick, but I kind of miss this old Jaime in newer seasons. Does that make me a dick too? I guess it makes both of us dicks, Timo. And I think he covers, because if people found out his kids aren't rightful heirs, it could be a big problem for all of them. And that's kind of what I was saying as well. We also have another call.
Hey, man, sorry for calling so much. It won't let me in your YouTube chat for some reason. But do you think Jaime felt some type of remorse for that shit, or I think he's just a straight-up asshole?
And, buddy, never apologize. You can call in and leave. And if we don't answer, it just means that we're in mid-discussion, so we don't have that volume turned up. But you can always always leave a message on the voicemail, and you can call millions times. We don't give a crap. We give a crap. We want you to call millions of times. So there's also the chat wing chat that works as well. So to answer your question, do we think Jaime feels bad at all? Do you think Jaime feels bad, or is he straight asshole, Joe? I'm curious what you think.
Here's the thing. I think that Jaime does have an actual conscience. I think it grows in time. So I think what he's feeling bad for now still is himself. I don't think he's feeling bad for Catelyn. I don't think he's feeling bad for the kid.
He's just feeling bad he lost the battle.
Correct.
And then he got caught.
That's what I think he's feeling bad for. I don't think Jaime actually has any redemption in him or starts down that path until a later point.
Until we meet another very large blonde character.
Maybe even before that a little bit it might start, but that's around when. That might even be the cat.
And let's jump into the chat for a second. Red Team Carmine, welcome, buddy. Hi, this is one of the best episodes ever. Amazing final, ended great. Absolutely. We were talking about that at the beginning, how compared to some of the other episode 10s after the big episode 9, I think this one did the best job at at following that crazy action that happened in 9. And I agree that this is probably one of the best episode 10s that the series has. I agree with that 100%. We were saying that at the beginning. And also, Adafan says, "Nah, he still fucked her again." Yeah, he did. He kept fucking Cersei millions of times over. So he never. He didn't.
Right after the kid went out the window, he went back and finished up. So he didn't feel bad about doing that. You know, he doesn't feel bad about what he's saying to Catelyn. He only feels bad about being caught being.
So it's one of those things with you don't feel bad for it's like when a judge says to a criminal, you don't feel bad for the crime. You just feel bad that you got caught. Sam says, I don't think she cast a spell on him, but I think she played a part on the prophecy that she had. I definitely think Maggie has a big part in the person that Cersei became, and somewhat in her manipulation of Jaime, knowing the things, especially in the book, that she tells Cersei, that being in complete control of her younger brothers. I mean, I think for the most part, Cersei thinks of that prophecy by looking at Tyrion, but I do think part of her has to understand that Jaime is a younger brother as well, and wants to kind of keep her finger on the pulse of Jaime through her whole life. And she's thinking about what's my biggest weapon, as we've talked about in the chat. My cheekbone and my vagina are my two biggest weapons. So let me use my cheek muscles and use my vagina to manipulate this young Jaime Lannister to do my bidding. Max says, I don't think it's a spell. I think it's Jaime and Cersei just grew up in a really fucked up environment and they had a horrible father. And it's also worth mentioning that a lot of people graze over this detail, that not just that, they also, both their parents are first cousins. And having that as an element of your childhood and knowing that your father and mother are first cousins probably makes you more in a...
You gotta realize too that in this place, in this time, this is not an uncommon thing for relatives, maybe not brother and sister, but for relatives and family members to get to Targaryens have been doing it for years.
Unless your name's I was gonna say unless you're a Targaryen, then it's your
right
arranged marriage with your sister.
Right. Sister and brother Targaryens, yes, that's happened. But like other families in the kingdom, first cousins and stuff, you wanted to keep the wealth in the family. You didn't want to spread that around. You wanted to make sure the power and the wealth stayed with your family. So you would marry girl cousins to boys and stuff like that to keep the, you don't want to be handing land away.
So our next scene is a very quick scene that we don't really need to talk too much about. It's our only Cersei moment of the episode. And we see Cersei sharing her bed with young, little, innocent, never going to be a problem to anybody in the future, Lancel Lannister, who thinks it's so exciting that they're at war.
Interesting you put it as sharing.
Sharing her bed.
I don't really think there's much sharing going on. Now shut up and get back in bed.
Shut up and get under my covers and get ready to wear the Chota Boy helmet.
The crown.
I think she has him wear Chota Boy from Orgasmo helmet. And if anyone needs to look that up, you can stop this video and Google that. And I think Lancel's wearing one of those masks. Who I think I want to be for
Chota Boy.
Red Team says, in the books, Tyrion refers to Lancel as a discount Jaime. Has all the elements of Jaime, but much smaller and much cheaper. Joffrey would have been the king. Ahmed says, that's what you get with incest. Look at the Mad King. Some could say with Joffrey too, even though the other two kids seemingly ended up pretty normal.
All of them end up, fucked in the head or deformed.
It's interesting that it was 1 for 3. And I guess it's a bigger question of nature versus nurture, a bigger issue here on that, whether we could say that Joffrey became so crazy because of being so close to Cersei growing up and having that sort of a hotbed, or because of the incest thing of Jaime and Cersei being his parents. I mean, I would say it's seemingly, if we use the information given to us, it would seem that it's more for being that close to Cersei because the other two kids ended up all right. But that's kind of hard to tell. I think Joffrey was also predisposed to insanity from the stories we get in the book about him as a kid and killing the cats and this. And again, we talked about this in other episodes where in the books, Robert talks a lot more to Ned about knowing that Joffrey is fucked in the head and catching him doing a lot of messed up shit.
Well, I think too, we know that there was another child at some point before Joffrey.
Yes. That
didn't make it. So when Joffrey comes around, you know that she's gonna not literally smother Joffrey and keep him close and raise him. And then, you know, when it's time for the daughter to come and then Tommen to come, Marcella, when, you know, she can relax a little because her other son has made it. She's, you know, she doesn't have to worry about them continually dying at this point.
Absolutely. Good point. Ahmed says it's a coin flip. Not all Targaryens were mad, just a coin flip. So again, it's like, it's with the Lannister kids. It was 25% of, it was one of those things like, okay, the 25% rule, but 1 in 3 ended up being crazy shit. So we get this scene with discount Jaime, I like that, and Cersei in bed, and he's like, I can't believe we're at war. Was it as wait, sorry, 1 second. Was it sorry, here we go. I can't believe we're at war. Was it this exciting last time? Were you when you were young? I love how he says that to her too. When you were young. Oh, that's gotta hurt her a little bit. What does it say? Oh my God, have we captured Robb Stark yet? What's our next move? Oh my God. And she goes, stop talking and get back into bed and put your Chota boy helmet on now. Oh my!
And it's funny too because it comes right after the scene of, you know, Jaime's in prison, is captive, is getting beaten with a rock, is trying to stay alive, is trying to die or whatever, you know, and she's fucking her cousin.
Welcome, Kaylana. Welcome. BS facts. Sibling incest has less genetic chance of recessive genes expressing themselves than continual cousins and repetitive siblings in a family. Very interesting information, Kaylana. Thank you. Thank you for that factoid. So cousins have more chance of producing the genetic gene that causes deformity or something like that with the two family members. Because I know that's a big part of genetic problems is that two people that are genetically connected in relativity can both have certain genes for disorders or things like that. And if you're a family, both of you can connect, and then your child can get both sides of the gene that caused the disease.
I think she's saying that when your son and daughter do it, there's less chance than when your first cousins do it.
That's what I was saying. Yeah.
That's weird.
That's weird, but I trust the information. Thank you, Kaylana. Timo says, I was lonely in the chat. Had to bring out the big computer. Welcome to the big room. Welcome to the big boys table. At a doggy style. Holy shit. Joffrey was just a screwed up villain to hate. Yeah, Kayla, let's not forget it's just an imaginary world made by George R. R. Martin. Theory, Jaime and Cersei are Mad King's kids, would make a third generation of Targaryen's kids, and Joffrey expressed madness more. Yeah, and I've heard that speculated before. Some people say that Tyrion is a Targaryen. I've also heard the speculation that Jaime and Cersei are Targaryens. Very interesting. Red Team says, Musterman, pretty much things can be different, like the air could not even be oxygen and they will have more gravity in their world. Oh, talking about, yeah, if we're saying this is a magic world, then we could say yes, and then people fly and have sparkles come out of their butt when they poop or something like that. So we need to have some sense of based in the rules of the own world, so to speak. Joe's a giggle fest over there. So let's get to another one of my favorite scenes in the episode, which I guess I could just say almost every scene in this episode is one of my favorite scenes in the episode. Tywin's council. And the chat is going crazy. You guys in the chat are fucking you guys in the chat are so awesome right now. And sometimes I just pause in the show and have to just read because I feel like the people that are listening to just the audio cast are missing a lot. thanks to Joe. If anyone who's watching the video cast can just check in to the comment section after the fact, watching the video. But anyone that's listening to the actual audio podcast, you should definitely come to our YouTube channel, subscribe to Fill the Issues Guy YouTube page, and join the live chat, because that's where tons of fun happens. And we're having great discussion about this episode and about incest going on in the chat room right now that I'm loving between all of the people. So thank you guys. Okay, so we get into this Tywin's council scene, and I fucking love Charles Dance, and I love Tywin Lannister. He's so amazing, and I love his singular focus in this scene. He doesn't want to deal with any of the shit, and he just has a singular focus. They took my son. So Tywin's received the news of Jaime's capture, and Tyrion,
it's hugely insulting. He's supposed to be such a great warrior and all this shit. It's a huge defeat for the Lannister name.
They have my son, Joe.
Yep.
They have my son. And Tyrion...
Not one of my sons, my son. It's like his only son. Tyrion's sitting right there. He's kind of pissed.
They have my son. They have my son. And I love Tyrion's totally pissed, but Tyrion's the only one talking logic. Tyrion says that I can't help but being impressed by Robb Stark. Tyrion points out that they can't broker peace right now because Joffrey's a fucking idiot. Taking Ned's life has ruined any chance of peaceful resolution. Tywin freaks out. They have my son! And then kicks everybody out except for Tyrion. He goes, after a while, he almost lets Tyrion leave, and then he just goes...
This is the moment I think he really decides that
not you.
Choice he's going to have to do for anyone to do anything, the smartest person he actually knows, and it kills him. It really fucking kills him, is Tyrion.
Now that's a good question, Joe. Do you think that Tywin thought of the hand of the king thing with Tyrion on the spot here by realizing that Tyrion's not an idiot, or is this something that he had? Like he intended to send somebody, or leading into this moment, he's thinking
he knows somebody has to go.
But he's thinking it has to be himself at this point, right? At the beginning of all this whole scene, Tywin's like, "Shit, I have to go there now and fucking fix all this mess." And then when he realizes Tyrion isn't an idiot, when he hears him yelling at his people and realizing that Tyrion isn't a moron, he makes the decision. Or do you think this is a decision that Tywin had before this moment?
No, he did not. He was not thinking about sending
Tyrion until he realized he was smart. Until
this meeting, I think he's got all his generals there, kinda, and he himself is there. He could go back to King's Landing and run the war from there. He really kind of could, probably, with messengers, with crows, and things like that. It would be a little bit. And I think it's important that he needs to be on the front.
He trusts Kevin, though, when it really comes down to it. I think Tywin trusts Kevin, and Kevin probably could lead his armies.
Right. And but I think at this, when Tyrion says this, he sees the political mind in Tyrion. This is the first time he really, he knows his son is smart. He knows that this is his smartest child, which burns him up. But it wasn't until this conversation around the way he speaks to all of them candidly, with assertion, and he speaks the truth, and he breaks down the whole situation perfectly. And I think this is the moment Tywin decides that he is going to send Tyrion to be Hand of the King.
Interesting point by Carmine. Tywin isn't an idiot. He knows of Tyrion's talents, but mainly grudgingly. In the books, a lot of the other family members realize that Tyrion has a lot more of Tywin in him than Jaime. Tywin's sister pointed it out, and Tywin didn't talk to her for a year because of it. It kills him that Tyrion is more of a Lannister than Jaime. Absolutely. I think, and he obviously realizes that, can call Cersei a mile away and just knows that Cersei is somebody, and he says to her later in the series, "You're not as smart as you fucking think you are, and you think you're me, but you're not me. You're an idiot."
Right.
He knows, and I agree 100% with Carmine on this. He is so pissed off that Tyrion is the most like him, or that has the strategy mind like him.
If he was 6 feet tall, this guy would be the most powerful man in Westeros already. He's that charming. He's that smart. And if he had the physical prowess to back up his mouth, very few would be able to.
He has Tywin's personality. I mean, he has Tywin's brains and flair for strategy. Maybe not quite as good as Tywin because he isn't as experienced. Like he would.
No, not yet.
He would eventually be. But then he has this other thing that Tywin never had because of the problems that Tywin had with his father. This sense of being able to laugh. This sense of being able to be a man of the people in a way that pretty much no other Lannister can.
Right. No, and that's true. And he gets that also because he was been the black sheep of his family, much like Jon.
Yeah, it could be argued that if Tyrion was a 6-foot-tall man and never had to deal with a lot of this shit and never killed his mother, and all that stuff never happened, would Tyrion be the same person? Would Tyrion be as good of a person as he was? Or the tragedy and the things that Tyrion has been put through by Tywin, did that sort of trial by fire and make him a good person because of those things?
I think so. When you torture someone to get them to behave the way you want them to behave, whether it's mental or physical, you run the risk of creating something much different than what you intended.
Good point, Joe. And a couple other things in this scene. I love how Tyrion mentions that, yes, I'm new to strategy, but I am pretty good at it. I like Tyrion's honesty, and I love how and again, in the books, they direct how much more nervous Tyrion is in this moment, that Tywin's actually looking to him and asking him questions. Is my father actually talking to me right now like a human? And Tyrion really steps up. And ultimately in this scene, Tywin tells him he's going to send him to King's Landing to get everyone in line and handle business and be the hand of the king, because you're the only person that will tell people what they need to be told. And I think he also thinks if whoever it is, Baelish, Varys, handle their business, but I also think he probably considers if worst case scenario and Tyrion pisses off enough people, someone will kill him. No big deal. No hair off my nut. Tyrion's dead, whatever. And I just love this scene between the two of them. I also want to mention that I love how Tyrion, he does give Tyrion wine, but he won't let him pour the wine himself. Yeah. He makes sure he takes his wine from him and has to do the pouring. And he also, the important thing to get from this scene is that he makes him promise that whore won't come to court.
Yep.
And
how does he know about the whore already?
That's a good question, Joe. And
who was the lord that the whore was taken from?
I don't know, about Ginger Balls or whatever his name is. Ginger Cunt. What's his name?
Cunt? Lord Ginger Cunt.
A couple tenths down and it's interesting to think. Let's travel in the DeLorean and go to the future here for 1 second, Joe. At what 1, 2, 3? If you haven't caught up with Game of Thrones, get out of here. Okay. At what point does Shay become involved with Tywin? And at what point did Tywin just set this all up? Is she a spy for Tywin the whole time? And Tywin saying, don't take the whore, knowing he will take the whore? What
did the whore come from his tent?
Did the whore come from Tywin's tent initially? At what point did Tywin become involved with said whore, with the funny whore Shay? And I don't know. It's curious. If we go into the future and see how this all turns out, at what point does it happen? Does it not happen till his trial? And he notices her and went till Cersei.
Oh, Cersei says something, right?
I mean, it's oh God, the chat. You guys are fucking cracking me up so much. Okay, so let's go to our next.
I wasn't a big Shay fan at any point in the books or.
Ada says since the beginning. Some people say since the beginning. There may be 1 or 2 scenes that I liked her, and most people are saying that they hated Shay. I think most of the chat, she looked like she had a mustache. Someone said the whoreception. Ada fan says, yeah, maybe it was the whoreception, like that new Christopher Nolan movie. Whoreception, starring Tywin Lannister as Tom Hardy character, as the Leonardo DiCaprio character. Very funny stuff. She was badly cast. Someone said that the Shay character was badly cast.
Yeah.
And someone says, thank you guys I'm tuning into this. You're making my Friday work day go up by a lot quicker. That is why we're here. We're glad to be able to be here to help people through boring work days. Shay's the Yoko Ono of Westeros.
She broke up the Beatles, man.
Broke up the Beatles. We might meet another Yoko Ono character later on. We'll talk about that as time goes on. I could smell a horseception from a mile away, says Adafan. She was always Varys's woman. Varys brought her to him in King's Landing. Is she a porn star in reality? Timo says. I don't know. Someone will have to check on that. I know Roz is, obviously, and a couple of other people that have been on the show have. Maybe Shay is. I'm not completely familiar with that information, but I'm sure someone can tell us real quick in the comment section.
Roz is awesome. You should watch our interview with her, or the panel she's on. Rather, we didn't interview her.
Yeah, she's good people. We'll get to Roz a little bit later in this episode. When she said she didn't want to play, that's what she should have told Tyrion everything. I don't know. I think it's interesting. I think let's keep an eye on that as we're going to how, if they hint at Shay being a double agent here, being the horseception thing going on in this situation.
No, I don't think they do, but
I don't think they do either. I think it's more obvious. Again, not to keep going back here. I think it's a little bit more obvious in the books that I think in the show, because of Peter Dinklage and just the way they played some of those scenes, they played it like they were really in love. And then she did everything because of being a jaded lover, is I think how the show played it. But I don't know. We'll keep an eye on it.
I think the books did a pretty good job playing it that way too. In fact, in the books, they kind of really make it seem like she was from an almost overprivileged house somewhere in the Isles or in Essos, and not necessarily a whore straight from the start.
Kaylana says, yes, Shay in the Lannister war party is suspicious, but Cersei did have to point her out to Tywin. Very good point. Very good point, Kaylana. And that backs up what Joe was saying. Max also says, Max talking to Timo. So let's continue. We get our Jorah and Daenerys waking.
Yeah. She wasn't necessarily a whore to the Lord, but maybe a noble girl from a foreign land that the Lord had taken.
We found out that Shay, yes, in fact, was in porn. People are asking for links in the comment section. And then Timo says she should have kept her day job then. So here we go, a quick scene with Daenerys, and I've said this at the beginning of our episode. This is one of my favorite, if not my favorite, Daenerys episodes. She plays scared and freaked out really well in the tent, as we notice all the Dothraki gone as well. Jorah has been standing watch over her. She finally wakes up. Jorah tells her that the baby didn't make it. Daenerys demands to see Mary Ma's door. They kill her. Mary comes in, says the child was a stillborn and monstrous. It was covered in scales and had wings like a bat. And this was the price that Daenerys paid for Drogo's life. Now, Drogo's been left outside in the tents. They go out to see him. He's catatonic. He doesn't respond to Daenerys' voice. Daenerys is fucking furious at what happens, but Mary thinks that she did the right thing. The Dothraki raped her, and she doesn't bunch of them raped her before Daenerys had a chance to save her, and they burned down her temple. They shouldn't have done that. Daenerys' son would have been the stallion that mounts the world, would have conquered and murdered everyone. Now there'll be no rape, killing, and purging, and it's just...
Oh, you silly child. His men had already raped me 3 times over before your stupid ass came along.
Yeah. Oh my.
I like the way they do this in the books too, the way he just kind of walks like he's a zombie. He still moves on his own, but he just basically moves himself into the sun and just sits there and stares into the sun all day.
Oh my gosh, the chat. Red says, most of the whores in the brothels were in porn. Even some of Craster's wives were in porn. Lynch Troll says, Craster was also in porn.
It's not porn, it's HBO. That is the best video. That is hilarious.
I love that. It's awesome.
Have you seen that video, Phil?
Yeah, no, I absolutely have. And there's also, I forget where it is. Maybe I'll go through the dialogue here. There's also a Princess Bride quote in here, but I forget what it was. I didn't do a good job. Oh,
Queen of putrid of refuse. Boo!
I think it's when Daenerys is being helped up and someone goes gently, or something like that. It was like a gently comment. So, it's Jorah when Daenerys is getting up. He goes, gently. It's just it reminded me of the Princess Bride. So they end up having this whole big discussion where ultimately the Mary Ma's door shows that Drogo's catatonic. You paid for life. He's living. This is what you paid for. The blood magic gave you his life. And when will he be as he was, Daenerys whines. And when the sun rises in the west, sets in the east, when the seas go dry, when the mountains blow in the winds like leaves. Fuck you, Daenerys. And Daenerys' face in this whole situation, like, I just got played.
Yep, big time. They're all right. I was so wrong.
It's right when that person, you're at a poker table and someone shows you that bluff and you just threw away all your money. And any poker player has been there at one point. They show you that.
It's not even the bluff. It's the one that you were beat from the start. Like you had the flush, but they had the straight flush. Oh, your heart. Oh,
she
you're
just
four of a kind. Your full house is beat by four of a kind. Oh.
And then she sends Jorah away, and she goes, "You knew what I was buying, and you knew the price. It was wrong." And she goes, "We talked about this a little bit. It was wrong to burn the temple. It angered the great shepherd, which is the god of her people. It's not God's work. My child was innocent. It was the stallion that would mount the world. Now he will burn no cities. Now the Khalasar will trample no nations into dust." Daenerys says, "I spoke for you. I saved you. Save me. Those riders had already raped me before you saved me, girl. I saw my God's house burn. That's where I healed men, women, crying in the streets, blah, 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 blah. Why don't you take a look at your cow and know exactly what life is worth?"
Yep.
Damn. So that gets left there, and we go to Jon wanting to leave Castle Black as he found out what happened to Ned. He's determined to leave. Sam tries to stop him. He goes, "You can't." He goes, "Get the hell away from me, Sam." And they'll put out the word. They'll send ravens. People will come after you. Do you know what happens to deserters? He goes, "First episode, dude. I know better than you do." And he goes, "I got to find my brother and put a sword through King Joffrey's throat." Sam goes, "You can't leave us. We need you here." And he goes, "Move out of my way." And he rides the hell out of there. So we'll come back to Jon and Sam and the Night's Watch stuff a little bit later as we get Tyrion and his funny whore scene where it's just Tyrion tells Shay of his new appointment and tells that his father told him he shouldn't take his whore. She pulls a hissy fit.
Is that what I am to you? Just your funny whore? And
that's immediately where to go to How I Met Your Mother. Her eyes are all crazy, dude. Tyrion is smart enough. And he should not be, he's fucked enough whores in his life that he shouldn't fall in love with the first whore that touches his face a little bit or something, or that can fake burn her.
Calls him a lion
or whatever. He's a whoremonger. He really is. Like, he immediately falls in love and doesn't smell crazy all over this woman. And that's my one thing. Like, once she starts going oh my God, like, he finds it charming that don't bring Shay with you to King's Landing because she's a whore.
All he had to do to save his own skin at this point was this. Yes.
Are you ashamed? Joe, are you ashamed of me? Are you ashamed of me, Joe? Yes.
Well, no, as long as you cost enough money.
Right. You are a whore. You cost 1 shilling a night, and you think that's good pay. Shut the fuck up. I mean, seriously, though, once she starts jumping up and down and pulling I'm like, I'm sorry, you're staying here. You're going to be more good. And I mean, come on. I just think, and that's not me even playing Monday morning quarterback on that. Like, I'm watching that the first time. I'm like, is she really worth this? Is she? I mean, come on, bring Roz home. I mean, I pick Roz over Shay fucking any day, man.
Oh yeah,
she was bred for him. Whoreception confirmed, says Adafan. We're through the looking glass here, people. So we go back to Jon and the boys. Pip, Sam, Gren, and right after Jon, and even though Jon has a head start, they somehow catch up to him, and Jon can kind of hear them in the background all bumbling because they're just like a useless pile of shit without Jon.
Did we get him?
Oh my God, did we find him yet? Is that him? No, it's a snake. Oh my gosh, it's a snake. I'm so craven. It's just a funny back and forth with the guys, and it's pretty just funny stuff. And ultimately all the guys just tell Jon how much they need him and he's going to go anyways. And they do what I called in my notes, the cheers, keep Cliff Clavin home thing, where they all just start singing a song to him. And the episode of Cheers, they start singing, "Fighting soldiers from the sky, fearless men that fight and die." Or it's some episode of something where I think it's Cheers. And they start just reciting, "I am the sword in the darkness, the watcher on the wall, the shield that guards the realms of man. I pledge my life in the honor of Night's Watch." And they just start giving him the speech. And he feels
crumbles.
Jon Snow, being an honorable individual, feels it inside them. It elicits the kind of emotion that they're trying to get out of him, and they play Jon like a little bit of a fiddle in this situation, and Jon ends up going back. I don't think it has anything to do with Jon protecting his life. I don't think Jon gives a shit about his life. I think it's the honor that he feels like he took a vow, and now that he took a vow, his father would not want him to break that vow. And let's jump into the chat for a second. Kaylana said, did you feel protect the Lannister Baratheon children when Jaime and Cersei got caught fucking by a child? Who's the child? Deserved protection of whom? Oh, I think that's a question for the chat. Miss Ash says, I wish we could get that group back to chop off his limbs and make them watch him eat it like the Walking Dead character. I have a shitty memory for names. Bob. I actually, part of me likes the Thens. Oh, they're talking about Ollie in the chat. I am not caught up with the chat. I scrolled up a little bit. There's Ollie talk. We have a call. Welcome, caller. Sorry, caller. Welcome to the show. What's up, buddy?
Not much, man. Sorry about calling so much, but won't let me into your chat. But,
no worries.
Yeah, Jon didn't care about his life, dude. He would have definitely went with all that and deserted to go help his family and shit. And in the books, if it wasn't for Ghost, I think he would have got away.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's interesting how the show takes away the importance of Ghost in a lot of ways and a lot of different stuff. And
there's a lot of shit with the dire wolves they take away.
And I wonder if that has to do with changing shit because of saving money purposes.
Money and time.
They didn't want to CG and work with animals, so they're kind of pussied out essentially. Because
there needed to be at least 12 to 14 episodes in order to keep the dire wolf stuff in.
We need 13 like in True Blood, but I just got one question. Yep. How the hell did he hear Ghost whenever Ghost don't make a sound?
It's a good question, buddy. And
because Ghost wanted to be heard.
And Ghost on the show makes sounds. And I want to say that I've read a quote from either George R. R. Martin or somebody talking about that change and saying, yeah, that's a change from the books. And I'll try to find that confirmed, but I want to say since we've been dealing with that, or in one of the videos where I was bitching about Ghost being too loud, someone linked me to something, and I'll look for it, that said, yeah, we changed that. Fuck it. It's not that big of a deal that we changed, because Ghost on the show makes noise. He just does. It several times in this first season, in episodes leading up to this, Ghost straight up barks or growls or makes audible noises, clearly. So this Ghost talks. Thrones does need to go at least 2 more episodes, Carmen. I agree too. And I think especially if the show wants to end in the 8 seasons or the 7, they say 7, but it's going to be 8. I think maybe the last season they should give us 12 episode season. I think we need a few. I think each, especially as we get into some of the later seasons of Game of Thrones, I think it could be very beneficial. I think season 1, they just squeezed it all in. Maybe it could have used one more episode or 1 or 2 more episodes. But I think some of the later seasons, when there's so much more going on in different places, you really do need the extra time to have some episodes that just explore some of the stuff that gets
right from the start. All multiple seasons, extra episodes at the end, 12 to 15. Season 1 could have used it, 2 could use it, 3 could use it, 4 could use it. They all could use it. There's so much more in the story that is left out because of time.
True Blood starts sucking. Maybe True Blood's problem was it went on too long. Believe me, I used to love it. It went on too long, says Red.
Yeah. The shark jump was what happened with Tara.
Now my question is, as somebody that's never watched it, is it worth watching the early seasons, or don't even get involved? Because
you might get stuck to it. Ended up, you know me, I don't tolerate the shit, but I ended up getting stuck, and I watched it throughout the whole. There's a lot of bad stuff about it. If you really like Anna Paquin, watch it. If you don't, it's going to be hard to watch. There's a lot of bad stuff about it, but it's fun to watch for the first few seasons, Phil. But I was so pissed with the last few seasons.
That it might not be
seasons.
Fair enough. Good. Fair enough. I'll consider it when I'm running out of other shows to watch. Red says, well, once you cut out all the bullshit Sam and Gilly scenes, you could fit in all the other stuff. Yeah.
I like a lot of some of the Sam stuff.
I
A
agree.
lot of the
I like some of the Sam stuff, but some of like in the later seasons when we get into straight up Sam and Gilly stuff, I don't like Gilly. I'm not a Gilly.
I'm not a huge Gilly fan. I like that she's an engine for some things to happen in the books, but I don't like the character. I'm not.
I don't like.
I really like this.
Yeah, I'm not a big.
Or the casting, right?
So as for True Blood, it's a cool show to watch with your girlfriend. I'll say that much, but later on it's meh.
Very meh.
Tim says, I like Sam, but all those scenes were too much sometimes. Yeah, I agree too. And I like I like Sam and Jon scenes together.
Well, and here's the thing.
I like Sam and Aemon scenes together.
And they took away a couple of important Sam scenes, huge character building moments
for Sam and Gilly bullshit.
Well, not just for Sam and Gilly, but for Sam himself. Like there was a couple of things that we haven't gotten to yet, but over the time of his story, that the show left a few things out with Sam that are really good character building moments for him and help to bolster and make an audience appreciate the character more. So
yeah, I know you have
those things out, and with the extra episodes, we could have kept those things in.
And Kaylana says they should have an end series 2.5 hour finale. I could not agree with that more. And then after it initially airs on HBO, do what they did last year with the IMAX and release it into theaters so people could watch that final 2.5 hour episode on a big screen if they want to. Because I know there's been hints of rumors of that bullshit, but I think showing on HBO and having gone to the IMAX to see the final episodes a couple years ago, seeing Thrones on a big screen is fun. But I definitely don't want that to be the first time I see that 2.5 hours, as some people have argued. Maybe it should end with a movie. I think 2.5 hour
making me pay another $30 to $40 to people.
2.5 hour episode is a perfect way to end the entire series.
I'd be pissed if they were like, okay, final 2.5 hours is you got to go to the movie theater.
I would be pissed too, dude. I'd be almost as pissed as I am that I have to pay to watch newest Star Trek series. I'd be almost as pissed off as I am.
Oh, that's awful too.
That's fucking awful. That's a different That's a different thing to talk about altogether. Okay, so then we get a quick scene of Daenerys smothering Drogo to death with a pillow after washing him clean and talking sweet to him, begging him to come back. But he never comes back, and she repeats the line, when the sun rises in the west and sets in the east, then you shall return to me, my sun and stars. A sad scene. His body does react a little bit when she's trying to smother him, but I think it's just convulsing. It's not him struggling to live at all. And she ends up suffocating him. And speaking of suffocation, we go from a very interesting transition that they go to Drogo being suffocated to the Pyzel's voice talking. It's just a fun transition to go from like one thing to another. I love it. I just fucking love it. Kayla says, I tell people to only watch the first 3 seasons of BBC Being Human with the original characters. Both of you told me about the audiobooks while I'm working or being on the road. It's awesome to put on the audiobooks because it gives you some more info. We talk about the audiobooks are great, especially if you can get past the accent, the guy's voice, and the fact that he mispronounces some of the names. Ketelin or Kazelin or Jeffrey or something, like he calls Joffrey Jeffrey a couple of times. But it is good to kind of put on the background, and then once you get used to the voice, it took me a couple of times giving it a shot before I could kind of focus in on it and get past some of it. But I listen to it all the time in the cars now. P-Tire. Thanks, Tom. He calls him P-Tire.
P-Tire Baelish.
P-Tire Baelish. Oh, I know P-Tire. And I hate the voice he does for Varys. That he chooses to do for I'm Varys.
I'm the spider.
Like, if you get past some of the voices, the information's great, and it's good to kind of just hear the book spelled out to you. But sometimes I wish it could just be like I could have like James Earl Jones' voice reading it.
It's funny listening to. I see Red Team. He says he hates the guy. You don't really like him. It took you a while to get into him. Rather,
yeah, I'm not too.
The reviews I read were like everybody up in arms that they got rid of the guy and got a different guy for one of
the last book. Yeah, I saw that. I think it's people who just get do what they're
used to it.
Yeah, get what they're used to. And
I started listening to the audiobook, Phil, when you sent it to me. And unfortunately, the program I have that I was listening to it was going to make, I couldn't like adjust where I was. I'd have to start all over again. I couldn't get to the right
I hear you with that. It's tough because it's not because the way I have it in bulk because of I got it in a completely legal means. So I have it all in like these big bulk files. And Red said something in the chat. I think they did this on DVD extras where they have parts of like the book where they have the cast members. They should, and that would be an excellent, after Thrones is over with, a big project to work on, to do a complete redoing of the audiobooks with the characters reading their particular chapters, with the actor that played him on the show reading the chapters. I want to say that in some of the DVD extras, there's a couple of points where they have like Charles Dance reading some stuff, and they have like Ned reading a Ned chapter, or something like that. I could be making that up in my mind of something I wanted to happen, but I have some memory of that. He plays the pyromancer in season. Oh, we're talking about but yeah, I would absolutely love to see them do something like that. That's one thing, not to get too far in the audiobooks train. It's one thing I really love about the Star Trek audiobooks is depending on who the story on the Star Trek story is about. If it's a Sulu story, for instance, they have George Takei doing the audiobook. If it's a Picard one, they'll have Patrick Stewart doing it, or Kirk, they'll have William Shatner. So they get whichever actor is the main book is about to do the audiobook for it. And sometimes it works out better because some of them are better voice actors or not, especially some of the Next Generation ones where you have the guy that plays Q on Next Generation doing some of the voices. It's really cool. That would be great, please. Wait, Charles Dance doing a reading of the book. I think it's on one of the DVD extras where they have him reading some excerpts from the books, from some Tywin stuff that happens in the books. I think, and Timo says, I think that the actors do the history and lore extras. History and lore is what you mean. That's read by the actors. Okay, yeah. Thank you. As usual, I'm confusing things, and I'm projecting what I want to happen through the means of what actually is happening. And the characters do the history and lore stuff, which is really awesome. And it made me think exactly what Red was suggesting, that I wish that they would do an audiobook thing. And I think that would be a really cool thing for them to do afterwards. And I think that would sell like fucking hotcakes. Or maybe even just and then have some real awesome animator animate all that, but whatever. Charles Dance doing audio reading, total masturbation material. In fact, I would just have him do it all if we could. He wouldn't be a bad choice. Him and Peter Dinklage doing it back in, Peter Dinklage in Charles Dance read Game of Thrones. I'd go to a play to sit there and watch them do that on stage, like a staged reading where all the actors were just in the theater. And I know we're going on a little bit of a rant here. It's similar to, again, to bring up Star Trek Next Generation cast over the break of one season took one of their episodes and performed it at a couple of dates at a theater in London as a live stage show.
Assholes.
That no one else could see that. I would love to see Game of Thrones do something like that with a staged reading of the books. Please. Even if they do it as a DVD extra or as a live televised.
Like inside the Actors Guild, it could be a workshop with that dude.
Something like that would be pretty interesting. But anyways, let's continue. We get our Roz and Pycelle scene. Roz's naked butt in the background of this scene as she's just annoyed with having to deal with Grand Maester Pycelle in his quarters.
That was Roz, really?
That was Roz, yes. He starts off by saying, the thing about kings. Wait.
I love this scene. The little sly fucker. He's in great health. But like as soon as his robe goes on and she's out of the room, he's like, ugh.
Yo, the thing about kings. I can tell you. There's so much to know about kings. The thing you need to understand about kings is for the past 67 years, I've truly known more kings than any man alive. They're complicated men, but I know how to serve them. Yes. And I keep serving them. And all the time while Roz is trying to clean off the scum off of her from having to have sex with Pycelle. Aerys Targaryen, of 1,000 people, madness is the worst thing that someone could be. He was a good man, such a charmer. To watch him melt away before my eyes, consumed by the dreams of fire and blood. Robert Baratheon was an entirely different animal. Powerful man, a great warrior, but alas, winning a kingdom and ruling a kingdom are rather different things. They say if a man goes through life with his battle visor down, he can often blind to the enemy at his side. Now I serve his son, King Joffrey, and may the gods bless his reign. He's a capable young man, strong military mind, stern, but sternness in the defense of the realm is no vice. It's far too soon to know what manner of a king he will be, but I sense true greatness on the horizon for our new king.
Yeah. So he's got it so wrong. This guy is deluded.
Oh my God. And I guess it's and I'll finish the scene and then we'll talk about it. Then she says, what's the thing? And he goes, what's the thing? You said the thing about kings that you need to understand. What's that thing? Well, you never finished that. And she goes, oh, forget about it. And the look on her face when she's like, forget this shit. And then she just walks out. It's just really hilarious shit. And then he does the thing that Joe was saying where he stretches out and you see that he's pretty fucking spry. But what I was going to say before, Joe, was I think what you do in this moment, it's one of the rare times in the series that you really get inside his mind and what he needs to do to wrap his mind around to serve each king. How he manages to be a cockroach, how the cockroach manages to find his own way to survive, and that he rationalizes any way he can. And that's what people like this do. They find any way that they can possibly hook their claws into a situation, and through his way is through rationalization to himself that every king is the best king while they're serving. It's really fun, and I think it's interesting because we don't get this a lot from Pycelle in the future and or before this or at any time. This is a real good dive into his mind, and I enjoy the scene. Another reason why this episode is one of my favorite. Licking all the kinds of Lannisters boots this guy does. Yeah. But he also licked the Baratheon boot, and he also licked the Targaryen boot. He knows whose boots to lick and how.
Yeah.
He's a survivor for whatever we think about him. And excuse me, he always speaks so extravagantly high about Joffrey. He's the noblest child the gods have ever put on this earth. Yeah, that's one of my favorite. This noble child, the noblest child this man has ever. Okay, so then we get to my favorite scene in the episode. I say this a lot, but this is my favorite scene in the episode. Maybe one of my favorite scenes. Any scene with Littlefinger and Varys, I just can't.
Oh yeah, walking through the throne room.
Yeah, just amazing. Just them going back and forth. And
curious. You often think about my junk, do you?
It all starts off. He's like, I bet where Varys goes to him. You imagine yourself when you imagine yourself up on that throne. Does the crown fit? Do all the lords and ladies bow to you? And Littlefinger's like, it's hard for them to simper and bow with no heads. Just a funny reaction. A man with great ambition and no morals. I wouldn't bet against you, Varys' reaction. And then would you do, my friend, if you found yourself sitting up there? I must be one of the few men in the city who doesn't want to be king, says Varys. And Littlefinger's reaction. Littlefinger's in prime form with Varys here. He's like, he is on every comment. And Varys can handle it. Hearing the two of these, watching
it's a great spot.
It's a great spot. Yeah, it's a great game of tennis going back and forth between the two of them. And it's just well, you're one of the few men in the city who isn't a man. And then Littlefinger won't drop this. When they castrated you, do they think the pillar and the stones? I always wondered. In Varys, have you? Do you spend a lot of times wondering what's between my legs? And Littlefinger just continues. Well, I picture a gash like a woman's. Is that right? And Varys, I'm flattered, of course, to be pictured at all. It must be strange for you, even after all these years, a man from another land, despised by most, feared by all. Am I? That's good to.
Oh, you fear me.
Oh, you do. Thank you. He's just like, so thank you. I could put on Littlefinger and Varys scenes on loop 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and watch these guys interact, and it's just hilarious to me.
Nice, Cleon. I so agree with you.
You lie awake at night fearing my gash? Yes, to him. But carry on, whispering in one king's ear and then the next. I admire you. And I admire you too, Lord Baelish. A grasper from a minor house with talent for befriending powerful men and women. A useful talent, I'm sure you'd agree. And so we stand here in mutual admiration and respect, playing our roles, serving our new king. Long may he reign. Long may he reign. Oh God, there's just so much being said between the two of them, or not so much. I think ultimately in this scene, they're both very clear of the subtext that they're saying to each other. And it's something we talk about a lot, that they both can't believe they're still in the game. They both just felt like fucking with each other because they enjoy each other. They enjoy the game of playing with each other. And they both call each other out on what their true agendas are. Littlefinger to rule and have everyone serve under them. And Varys, I think again, I think we've talked about this before. Varys, I think, has a better finger, no pun intended, on Littlefinger's agenda than necessarily Littlefinger has on Varys's agenda.
Yeah, they basically just sat there and did a little girl fight like this. One saying, "Don't call me a jealous whoremonger and little fuck," and the other saying, "Don't call me a little gash-driven not man." But they did it so beautifully, eloquently barbed tongues.
I'm gonna go back to the last scene for 1 second to jump in one of Kaylana's comment. Pyzel is just a gray sunken cunt.
Love it, please.
Great comment. Timo says, "Oh my God, I absolutely love all scenes with Littlefinger and Varys. They play disgust and respect for each other very well. One of my favorite scenes of the episode, that and King in the North scenes." Red Team says, "Many people believe the entire show is Petyr versus Varys. Varys supports Targaryen restoration while Petyr wants chaos among the houses. In many ways, the entire series is just a fight between the two of them." And Timo says, "It's like these two are causing everything else going on in Westeros and Essos." And yeah, it is. It's a lot could say that it's the two. We talked about this a lot in the last episode.
They're the power players right now.
They're the power players forever, and they both will do anything to serve their means, where Varys' means is ultimately, like Carmine was saying, the Targaryen restoration, as we find out more as time goes on, where Littlefinger, as Varys says many times to a few different people, Littlefinger would burn it all down to rule over the ashes. And I think Varys would burn anyone he needed to down to get a Targaryen in power again. But I think ultimately that's in a place of serving the realm, not necessarily his own self-interests, where Littlefinger is straight up serving his own self-interests. I don't think Littlefinger's serving some higher power. I know there's a way out there theory that Littlefinger somehow works with the White Walkers and shit like that. But I think that's one of the more ridiculous tinfoil theories I've ever heard in my life.
He's been taking boats up there and
that he has
crows.
That he has some sort of connection with that. I've heard that theory spelled out before as well, and I think that's one of the more silly theories. I think Littlefinger's working for completely his own agenda. Red says, "I always wanted to do a video on Varys, but there's almost no information about him other than his dick was cut off by some magic summoning whatever. The next book should tell us why he's so loyal to the Targaryens." I feel like and I understand why they don't. It makes them so mysterious, but I really miss not having at least some inside Varys' head at some point in time in the books, or he's just clouded in such mystery about where his agenda truly lies and everything. I hope
maybe he is a Targaryen.
I don't know. It's very interesting. His walker name would be Little Whitefinger. I like that. Awesome. Adafan. Ding, ding, motherfucking ding. Wait, Varys was castrated because of magic reasons. Varys talks about when he was castrated that that the sorcerer who cut off his dick threw up. We'll talk about that later. That happens in season 2, I believe. So we'll get to that. Sam. There's a scene that talks about that later on. People in the chat can clue you in, but we're going to wait to talk about that till it happens in season 2, I believe, in a conversation between Varys and Tyrion. Is it 3? It might be 3.
Yeah, I think so.
Is it 3? But yes, whatever. I said there is a poof of magic, and he heard a voice of something from the darkness, I believe is what Varys says. He took my junk, threw it in a fire, in a flame that burned it in a puff, and then I heard a voice. I don't have it in front of me, so I'm sort of paraphrasing. So then we go to Arya, Yoren, and the boys. He's trying to protect her. He's dragging her through Fleet Bottom. And this is also the scene that we're introduced to Gendry and Hot Pie. And it's a fun scene. Arya, now short hair, is lingering in one of the alleyways of King's Landing. Yoren takes is getting all the group of the men together to take him up to the wall. He says, "Now you're supposed to be Ari, an orphan boy. Go piss in the woods. No one will give a shit." So then the couple boys come up to her, and she has her sword and they start trying to fight her and start getting in her face.
They want her sword or pigeon or yeah, her sword.
Her sword. They want her sword. They're going to steal her sword. And who is that sword? And they start talking shit to her. Watch yourself, midget. He's got a sword. What's a gutter rat like you got a sword? Maybe he's a little squire. He ain't no squire. Look at him. He looks like a girl. Yeah. I bet he stole that sword. Let's have a look. I could use me a sword like that. Take it off him. Give it here, midget. Look at him. You better give Hot Pie that sword. I seen him kick a boy to death. And then Hot Pie's like, yeah, I kicked him down. I kicked him in the balls. And I just kept kicking and kicking and kicking till he's dead.
Do you believe it?
No. I kicked them all to pieces. You better give me that sword. You want it? I'll give it to you. And she pulls it out, and she goes all crazy Arya on him for a second.
She puts it in his chest as she stands up, and I'll shove it right through you. Yeah. I have killed a man before. I'll fucking kill you too, motherfucker.
I bet you never killed anyone. I bet you're a liar, but I'm not. I'm good at killing fat boys. I like killing fat boys. I just love this. Come on, Chunk. Do the truffle shuffle now, bitch. She's like, truffle shuffle, baby, now.
He pulled up his shirt. He was like, okay.
I'll do it. And you know who else also loves Arya in this moment? Who right away, I mean, we don't find out till later that he knows, but right away probably makes her for a girl.
Well, did you see the way she kind of like got up off the ground with her toe pointed? She looked like a girl in spite of the hair, whatever. Like if you saw that scene from a distance, you would have said, oh, why is that girl about to stab that boy?
So he comes over and he's just like, what the fuck, you fucking with me? And they've got he goes, and he kind of just threatens the guys, and the guys run off. So then he gets in her face. He goes, are you going to swing it when I hit you, castle? He grabs the sword. He goes, oh, that's a sword. Oh, it's a very nice sword.
That's
Castle Forge.
Castles.
Where'd you steal it? And she says it was a gift. And he goes, it doesn't matter. Where we're going, they don't care what you've done. They got rapers, pickpockets, highwaymen, murderers. Which are you? And Arya asks him, which are you? And he goes, I'm an armorer's apprentice, but my master got sick of me, so here I am. And then we hear Euron yell, come on, you sons of whores. It's 1,000 leagues from the wall, and winter is coming. My question for you, Joe, as I go let my cat in, is do you think that his master sent him away to protect him because Robert died, knowing who he was? Or do you think he sent him away because from what we knew about his interaction, his master seemed to like the two hands of the kings came and visited him. This kid's seemingly important.
He's trouble.
So you think he sent him away on purpose?
Yeah. If I keep this kid around, I'm next. I'm going to die next. Too many people keep coming to ask about him. That's why he sent him away. That and or Ned had him sent away, but I don't think so. We didn't see that. It's not in the book. It was basically he's trouble. He kept saying, like, he looked at it like in a nuisance that, you know, these hands, they keep coming and asking questions and they're really interested in this boy. He doesn't want that kind of attention, especially because both those two hands ended up dead. And then the king ended up dead.
Good point. The only thing that I was wondering as I was watching it, and I think I tend to agree with you, Joe. I think the only thing I was wondering when I was watching you is if he realized that the boy might be in danger for what's to come. But I don't think he probably realizes that the boy's in danger. I think it's more that this kid's more trouble than good.
Yeah. Not that the kid's in danger, right?
He's a wise ass. There's people always coming to visit him, and he talks shit to the hand of the king. Like, why am I have this guy around?
He does good work, but if he's talking to these people, he's not doing work. And maybe he senses it coming that somebody's going to come and take him or kill him. And why not get what he can from him now before that happens? Two hands have already come in between the first hand dying and the last hand dying. So King Robert dies.
It's so dirty. Two hands have already come.
Two hands have come.
Ahmed has a question. I think we skipped over this. What about the scene with Pycelle doing squats?
I know, right? What a sly little fucking snake. He isn't great. I'm so cripply and old and frail, and he's fucking banging whores and doing squat thrusts.
Oh my gosh. And Christopher says maybe Euron paid his master for him. knowing that he's a big guy and
he's a blacksmith. He needs a blacksmith.
He needs stuff like that at the wall. That's a possibility too. That he and his master's just like, I'm sick of you, blah blah blah.
I think his master went looking to sell him, and Yoren probably bought him, but not that Yoren went looking to buy that particular he might have even gone looking to buy blacksmith to bring back to the wall, but he's not really, he's an apprentice, he's not a slave. Like I don't think you can.
He's not like Anakin Skywalker
right here they're giving me $50, so you have to go to the wall for the rest of your life and pledge yourself to them. Like he still gets a decision of somewhat in that, I would imagine. Kind of strange. So
the next scene we get is Lord Commander Mormont speaking with Jon, who's afraid of what his punishment might be for deserting the Night's Watch. Mormont waves off the fear by saying if they killed out all deserters who took a night off, he'd have no men left to guard the wall. Mormont is at least impressed that Jon didn't go to the whorehouse. Mormont explains to Jon about the incidents happening behind the wall, the villages abandoned during the night, and the discovery of the blue-eyed corpses. The war for the throne means little. When worse things are stirring in the north. The Watch, he decides, and this is a great...
Do you agree?
Yes, 100%, that the real problem is the White
That's what he asked Jon.
Oh, yeah, do you agree? And Jon agrees. And the war means little. The Watch, and this ends up going under. The scene cuts halfway through to the action of all the Night's Watch with Mormont leading them, or a big group from the Night's Watch heading out beyond the wall. Jon has to make the decision, join the rest of his brothers, stay loyal to his family. I wonder what Mormont would have done if Jon chose his family in this moment. Would he have just chopped his head off, or would he have said, fine, Jon, go, and come back later?
I think he would have still left him to his devices and hoped that he was there when he got back, or was. I think he knew what Jon was going to do.
I think everyone. Yeah, I think he called Jon right on this. I think
Jon's Ned's son. He's too much honor involved to go and fight his brother's war.
Interesting. In season 3, deleted scene with Pycelle with Tywin, it's revealed that Pycelle does the faking out so he can blend in. He doesn't want to seem like a threat and no one look at an old man.
Right, exactly.
Trouble. Interesting.
That's exactly why he does it. You end up with a sympathy for him. Oh, you're not threatened by him. He's not standing over you. You feel stronger than that person most of the time when you see people like that. So it's a definite, he's a sly fox. He's a sly snake in the grass.
And Red says he would have sent a raven for Jon's execution if he said no. It would have absolutely. I think if Jon had ever left, he would have begrudgingly had to execute Jon.
Yes.
So anyways, in the scene, Mormont complains about having too much ham. He's like, he doesn't want ham. At least bring him a beer for breakfast if he has to eat ham again. And they have this good back and forth. Jon is so miserable, season 1, Jon Snow in this scene. Just so, you don't understand. You still don't understand what I'm going through. But he ultimately, I think as much as Jon wants to fight for his father and fight for his family, Jon just wants to be in a fight right now and wants to be fighting for something important. And I think Mormont does an excellent job here playing to that and knowing Jon. And as you said, Joe, knowing he's Ned Stark's son, knowing he has this sense of honor inside of him that wants to fight for something bigger than he is.
Which is also why he brings up Benjen. And we're going to go find Benjen Stark because Benjen is, that's his uncle. It's Ned's brother. That's part of the family. It gives them purpose, like he's also helping the family going to find Benjen as well. So by staying with the Night's Watch, by helping to go find out what's going on with Craster and all the wildlings and going north and all that shit and finding Benjen, it's all helping the Starks anyway. So
good question, and we're not going to answer this because I think we might have a future video in our hands from Red. But if Bran was there to see that one kid? Would Bran order Jon's execution?
No, of course not.
It's an interesting question. It is an interesting question. We'll I think it's going to be.
He would not.
You don't think so?
Nope. Not one bit. Nope, not at all. He would not order it. End of discussion.
End of discussion. That's Joe's. We're gonna shorten that up. Joe's reaction video. No. Bam.
Absolutely. Absolutely not.
Do you think any Stark would order the death of another Stark?
Nope.
You
Maybe Ned. Maybe Ned.
You
Ned's the only
okay,
one.
would Ned kill Jon for deserting?
Nope.
Yes, Ned would kill Jon for deserting in a second. I disagree.
Nope, he'd send him back.
No, he would kill him.
No, he'd send him back. He'd say he was taking a night off, just like the old man did. He just came down to visit me. He had an important message to tell me about something.
You think Ned Stark has that kind of flexibility to his rules?
Yep.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Yep. Absolutely. Ned would not kill. That's nope.
Nope. I love your nope argument. It's so detailed in your reasoning behind it. I love it.
Yeah, this is the reason. Nope.
No. Could you tell me that once again, Joe?
It's just nope. No. Ned doesn't do it. Ned would be the only one that could, but he wouldn't. Not Jon. No. Just no. They wouldn't. No. Catelyn would. Catelyn would execute another Stark.
Okay.
Would execute Jon. Sure. Catelyn would give the order.
Last question on this subject, Joe, before we continue. If Arya was given an assignment by one of the faceless men to kill Jon, would Arya do it? Nope. Nope. But Red says, but Ned is honorable.
Especially not Jon. No fucking way. She kills the faceless man that gives her the order and says, "There's the life you want." You wanted a life, I gave you one, motherfucker.
Ahmed says he saved Jon once, he'll do it again. Ned would not kill Jon, says Timo. Kayla, ham, salty pork makes you thirsty. Red says, but Ned is honorable. He can't play favorites. He can't do that, or else he would just make him look bad. Ned would have beheaded Jon. Just like that kid.
Ned can lie. Ned has lied. Ned can lie to his best fucking friend. Absolutely. Ned does not kill Jon. Ned can think of an excuse. Ned can think of something, some sort of loophole. Oh, just like the bear said, people go fuck whores in Moletown all the time. Don't worry about it, kid. People go away, sometimes for a day or two. It's when you're gone for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. They see you down in King's Landing, booking passage for Essos. Yeah, we come hunt you the fuck down. But no, this is fine. Don't worry about it. You want to go see your family? Benjen goes down to Winterfell all the time. Maybe he asks for permission. Maybe he doesn't. He just goes. Come on.
It's a very interesting question. I think it's definitely up for debate what Ned Stark would do in that situation and what any Stark would do faced with family. If what Ned would do if Benjen left the Night's Watch, would Ned have beheaded Benjen for?
Here's the thing: are they going to see family and shit like that, or are you finding them in like?
Joe, I'm not talking about just walking out of there. I'm talking about leaving the Night's Watch.
Right, you find him in Yunkai or some shit like that.
You find him in Dorne. You're going down. You're like the
Bravos.
Yeah, you're like Tony Soprano taking Meadow to college, and you see the guy up in Maine, and you're like, wait a second, I know that guy. I gotta kill him.
So you're like in a tavern in Bravos, and you see a Night's Watch come in and burn his black robes or something like that, right? Yeah. That dude dies. But if it's like your own son, maybe you try to get him back. And remember, you're the Lord of Winterfell, not just of Winterfell, but of the entire North. You've known the bear for a long fucking time, probably each other's lives. He's the Bear Island, Lord, and now the Lord of the Black. So I think you can work something out like, but if he does it again, a second time he's taken off running, like, sure, maybe Ned orders it then, but no, not the first time his son.
Joe, I don't know, Joe.
Daughter.
I want to agree with you, but I think what you're doing is humanizing Ned Stark a little bit too much in the sense of okay, the question comes is what's more important, family or honor, and that's all wrapped together. It's just a good question. I honestly don't know. I think it's up for debate. I tend to think that Ned chops his fucking head off. I tend to think Bran doesn't, but I think Ned would chop his fucking head off.
Let's put an Joe Strix here. We'll come back to it in future seasons, maybe books, when we find out certain information about what Ned feels more important about, family or
good goddamn point, Joe, that in season 6 and in Winds of Winter and further, we possibly will get more information to back up this conversation one way or another.
And I am going to say firmly that from what I've known, not from future reading or watching, but from just from season 1, and what we've seen up to this point, no, I don't believe Ned would kill one of his children for breaking the law or running from the Black.
Well, anyway,
even Benjen, I don't think he would do it for Benjen. I think he would try to get around it somehow. But ultimately, if he had to order the execution, he would do it himself too.
One way or another, it's definitely a very good conversation and a good debate there, and we'll get back to that at a later point in time. So now let's get into our final scene of the episode. It is Drogo's funeral, and Drogo's been placed upon the top of a funeral pyre along with 3 dragon's eggs Ilario gave to Daenerys as a gift.
Why are you doing that? Just sell them.
He says they could sell and they could live as a wealthy woman in the free city.
Sell.
And never want for anything. He also begs her not to join her husband. He knows what she's planning to do. Dany is thankful of Jorah's concern. He gives him a little kiss on the cheek and says,
"Oh, you silly child.
I know what I'm doing. The only people left...
I won't let you climb on top of that fire."
The only people left are Daenerys' own servants and the slaves, the people from the village the Dothraki sacked not long ago. Daenerys turns to them and says they're her new Khalasar and that she's freed them all, and those who want to leave can leave, but those who stay will be part of my new family. As she yells to Mary Mazor, "You get to the pyre. I'm tying you to the pyre." This is where we get to the whole thing where...
You won't hear me scream.
Oh,
yeah, I will. It's fire, you stupid bitch. Excuse me. Oh, my goodness.
Dany tells her people that she'll make sure that anyone who harms them will die screaming. Mary insists that she will not scream. Dany sets the pyre alight. Once the fire blazes, she walks right into the middle of it, seemingly unharmed.
The witch is singing. When the fire starts, she starts singing and chanting, and that shortly turns into screams.
Someone says it's too late to... Someone says it's too late to cook those eggs. She wants the hard-boiled eggs. Yeah. You're not going to feed your people that way, Daenerys.
See, those are really Varys' eggs.
That's what you don't know. Varys actually laid those eggs.
No, those are the eggs they took from 2 of them anyway. It's the pillar and the stone.
Oh, okay.
That's why they cut them off. They just
I wasn't sure what you meant there. Ghetto Toad, welcome, Ghetto Toad. I didn't see you pop in. Far Cloud guys, triggers. I said triggers. Christopher, welcome, Christopher, too. Seeing a couple of other friends piling on in. So ultimately, she walks right into the middle of the fire, seemingly unharmed, but she kind of just sits down while Mary writhes in pains and burns. The following morning, Jorah returns to the site of the pyre. Even though there's just ashes remaining in the middle of the smoldering ash, he finds Dany. She's naked, and her skin is coated with ash and grime, but she is fine. She isn't burned. The blood fucking magic worked. Jorah then discovers she's not alone. She has 3 baby dragons, 2 on her lap, 1 up on her shoulder. One stretches out, little Drogo, baby Drogo, stretches out his little neck and goes,
and his wings.
And his wings as we pan out. What a motherfucking amazing, unbelievable.
Jorah drops to his knees.
And they all just drop to their knees and they're all just like, holy shit. And they just, my queen, my Khaleesi, oh my God, oh my God.
Now, here's... And everybody that saw this, I remember talking to, were just astonished. Their jaws were on the floor from the dragons. I thought that it was all done technically very well and all that. But I was, because of how little the fantasy shit was in this series up to that moment, I was a little disappointed by that.
By the way the dragons looked?
No, by the fact that dragons are now around again, that dragons become a part of the story, that it basically...
You could not have dragons be part of this story, Joe.
You cannot ignore the fantasy anymore with that. And like, I guess you still kind of can for a little bit, but it becomes much more of just that, of the fantasy genre, because what we had before was a zombie and like 2 scenes with zombies and not really too much more with magic or fantasy stuff, aside from like the witch blood magic shit, which doesn't really kind of do anything aside from kill Drogo and a horse. Oh shit.
And birth some dragons. Max says, I hope Missandei becomes queen because she looks way better than Daenerys. I think she's smarter too. I saw her in something recently where I was like, oh my God, she looks so fucking hot. And whatever the thing I saw her in, I forget.
All the women on this show, HBO did a great job finding beautiful women to be on this show.
Red says, have you noticed how Dany still has some of her Dothraki guys in season 5? Most of them left her in season 1 finale. A lot of them died in season 2. Yeah, is she supposed to have Blood Riders still? Are Blood Riders still alive on the show?
She has some of them. Yes, she. There's.
You don't ever see them on the show anymore.
She had a couple. Now his Khalasar was huge. It was the biggest there was, and even though it doesn't look like it on the show, a couple hundred peasants and men and blood riders stayed with her, even though the bulk of the 20, 50,000, 100,000 rode off. I think it breaks off into two or three main groups.
We actually
and they scatter.
But we don't really see them much again, at least especially in the last couple of more recent seasons. We definitely don't.
No, we get them, the wandering Jew shit in the desert at the start of next season, I think. Yeah. But it doesn't focus on them so much. But yeah, no, they're still around.
They're still around?
They're still around throughout the whole story. It's her original tribe, really, is essentially. They're still there. They're not talked about or focused on. She loses a lot of them in the desert, and like I said, the Khalasar itself breaks off into, I think, 2 big warring parties, just split off, and all the like.
I'm actually really excited in season 6 to see some more Dothraki stuff.
Yeah.
Red says, I agree with Joe in the sense that the finale was great because they kept the fantasy magic on the show, magic monsters on the down low. The fantasy elements appear in the beginning and then again in the finale. But yeah, so it's good in touches, and I agree with that too. That in touches, when they try to do too much of it, I'm not as big of a fan of, especially when the later stuff that they do with some of the dragons from a CG standpoint, it just takes you out of it a little bit because you can't help but take you out of it, seeing big giant CG things. But whatever. Let's read a couple of fun facts before we take a call it a day. The episode "Fire and Blood" is the motto of House Targaryen. 2 of the scenes, Arya's brutal encounter with Hot Pie and Lomi and a conversation between Jaime and Catelyn, are not included in the original novel, but in the sequel, The Clash of Kings. According to the original novel, a singer who was tried by Joffrey was Marion, I believe. I'm mispronouncing his name, but was not Marion, but an unarmed tavern singer. Marion, who was present at the Crossroads Inn when Catelyn captured Tyrion and accompanied them to the Vale, makes an appearance in the Vale in the next book, but never in King's Landing.
Right. No, he stays in that guy that he did it. In the book, it's the same guy, but he goes to
the show. That's saying in the show it's the same guy, but in the novel it's
correct.
And I believe some trivia item. One of the heads and the spikes that Joffrey has placed on the battlements is George W. Bush. We talked about this before. Sean Bean is credited but does not appear in this episode. Only a prosthetic head of his likeness. And
that's good enough.
Also credited is Jerome Flynn, who does not appear in this episode. Mark Connie makes an uncredited appearance as Lord Galbert Glover, shouting out from the crowd of the Northmen that Renly is not the rightful king. He previously appeared in an uncredited in the Pointy End, where he had no dialogue. Vincent Maccabee was playing Rickard Cardstock. However, in this episode, he plays one of the Lannister bannermen, the one who has Harry Swift's line from the book, while Cardstock is actually played by Stephen Blunt, who is credited as such. However, Blunt's character is never identified on screen. Jon Snow debuts in season 2 playing Lord Cardstock, who is identified by name in the dialogue, blah, 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 blah. At the end of the episode, during Arya's escape from King's Landing, a wheeled cage is shown as part of Yoren's entourage, with 2 men and a hooded figure inside. Fans have speculated that the hooded figure is supposed to be Jaqen Hagar. His face was hidden because he was played by an extra until the episode. He was not cast until season 2, while the other men 2 are book characters, Rorge and Biter. Regardless of who they're supposed to be, all 3 characters do appear in the following season. As of this episode, the claimants of the Iron Throne consist of Joffrey, Stannis, Renly, and while Robb Stark is now fighting against King Joffrey to avenge his death of his father, Lord Eddard, and win independence of the North, the conflict does not become a war of 5 kings until Balon Greyjoy declares himself King of the Iron Lions Islands and attacks the North. Bran gives a clear, brief summary of Robert's rebellion to his aunt, and his aunt Lyanna was captured by Rhaegar. Robert and Eddard went to war to get her back, and she died. In the book, it's Master Lewin who takes Bran down to the crypts to show him that his father's not there, and Shaggy Dog bites him. Bran and Rickon then go with him back to his tower and are there when the Raven arrives with the word of his father's death. The North was long an independent nation within its own king of the North. It was only 300 years ago with the War of Conquest that the North King Torrhen Stark, seeing the strength of the Targaryen army and the might of the dragons, particularly at the Field of Fire, decided not to fight them and swear fealty. The Targaryens and the dragons being dead, with their ally Robert Baratheon now dead, Great John's reasons that they owe nothing to the Southern Kings anymore. That's his rationalization. When the scene of Gren, Pip, and Samwell pursuing Jon as he deserts was filmed, the part where Sam falls off the horse was not in the script. The lighting was poor, and the female stunt woman who was dressed up as Sam wore a wig, made it visible, so they put that in. It's the first.
Oh, did we catch him?
It's the first mention of Cotter Pike, the commander of Eastwatch by the Sea. In the books, Yoren tells Arya that a man Varys who bought Gendry in the books, Yoren tells Arya that the man Varys who brought Gendry to him was the same one who told him to delay leaving and be at the Sept of Baelor because the trial of Eddard Stark was supposed to result in him being sentenced to take the Black, and he'd be going with Yoren to the Wall. The scene between Catelyn and the imprisoned Jaime is based on a similar scene between them in the novel Clash of Kings. The scene is broken into two parts, one half and the other half, blah, blah, blah. In the book, Daenerys is found smoldering remains of fire, and the dragons are nursing milk from her nipples. They didn't put that in the show because, Jason Momoa recalls being heartbroken when first reading the script of his death. He goes, "I hate you." He threw the book at the wall saying, "I hate you, George Martin." And he calls Game of Thrones the greatest experience of his career. And yeah, that's just about it. I've got a couple more stuff, but we kind of just basically gone through all of this before. I could keep going. I've lots. Charles Dance was drinking grape juice rather than wine in the scene. Benioff and Weiss were inspired by Charles Dance's performance in Bleak House and did not audition anyone else for the character of Tywin. Harrenhal scenes will be a major location in season 2. The scenes in the Red Weast were filmed in Malta. Okay, blah, 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 and that's it. So we made it. We made it through season 1.
Only took, what, a year?
Something like that. But trust me, season 2 will not take us that long. We're going to do a lot more, try to keep to every 2 weeks doing an episode of Game of Thrones, and try to do some more, during the holiday break when try to maybe move these to Sunday nights when we're in Walking Dead break and just kind of have them live in our usual Game of Thrones time. So we'll keep you guys posted of all of that. And Joe, I guess it's a good time as any to call it a night.
When does season 2 start? How many months do we have to wait till season 2 starts?
Season 2?
Yeah.
Next week.
Oh, sweet.
Yes. But yes, we're gonna not next week, the week after, 2 weeks. Bye guys. Bye Adafan, Get Into It, Sam, Timo. Thanks to our callers. Thank you to Red Team Carmine for hanging out with us. Thank you, Ahmed, Protector of the Realm, Khaleesi of the Great Sea, called Daenerys, Dany Stormborn, the Unburnt Mother of Dragons, Liberator of Cities and Slaves, Jacking a Car. Yeah. Sam, oh my God, I love the Gladiator reference after the enormously long intro over the name. Oh, Naked Dothraki, then I'll be able to handle the Dany scenes. Needle Teeth, holy crap. Everybody, thank you so much for all your awesome comments in the great chat room. But everybody, have a good night. We'll talk to you guys. Have an awesome weekend. We will be back on Sunday to talk some Walking Dead. Later. Ain't seen nothing. Yeah. Something that you hear get rosy. Hope they don't want to give a fuck when you're brown and the brains you don't give enough. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Ahmed. You guys are awesome. Oh, yes, you can find us issuesprogram.com. Please subscribe. Please like this video if you haven't already. Email me at igotissuesman@gmail.com. You can tweet me at igotissuesman. Find me on Facebook, Phil's Recap and Review. Find Joe on Twitter at DirtyLocks. Subscribe to Dirty Issues Gaming to watch Joe and I doing some streaming. The Game of Thrones game will be coming out soon. I'll be doing my first playthrough on the main channel, and then I will be doing a full playthrough on the gaming channel, and Joe will be doing probably his first playthrough on the gaming channel. So look out for a couple of playthroughs of the Game of Thrones game coming up real soon.
And the Walking Dead one, too.
And the Walking Dead Season 2 one we'll be playing coming up soon. Always email me at igotissuesman@gmail.com. You can call, leave voicemails, 781-990-8509.
And I'll be streaming probably most of the day.
So check out Joe's streaming. Talk to you guys soon. Ghetto Toad, we love you. Kaylana, it's awesome to have you. Vaughn, Ahmed, Timo, the other Tim, and then our great friend Tim. Bye, friends.
Watch out for the demons. Watch out for the demons. Watch out for the demons. Watch out.
Season 2 coming.
Clash of, oh no, Clash of Kings.
Watch out for the demons.